Do you want me to? So here, you got him, right?
Here.
I should be able to pull him in.
Yeah, you have the power to pull him in as well. And now to do the announcement for this. Let's see, everyone. Stream announcement. All right. All right. This is going to be interesting. Let's see, do we have anything over there that we can use? So the last time I did it was 3 days ago exactly, so this is perfect spot for it.
That's an appropriate gift.
Hey, dog. Okay, you are a piece of background noise that okay here. That's a little mean to just call you background noise, but you are adorable and you are also kind of annoying.
Hello, Hive.
Hi, Hive.
God, are you talking shit to your dog? Jesus.
I know, right?
Always.
Sorry, guys. I'm what's that one streamer's name that was with her cats?
Oh,
Linity.
Linity.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. New Linity here. Yeah.
Oh man.
Let me go ahead and do this for you guys, so at least you guys can see what we're kind of talking about. Right now I have this just filling up the space until we actually have something to talk about. But so yeah, what I was kind of thinking about shooting the shit with today was still on the topic of D&D, going over monsters and stuff. Just kind of like really just looking through the monster manual, see what's cool, see what's like nice to look at, and then just kind of just stem off topics. Say, oh, maybe we want to talk about the world where this monster comes from and so forth. But we are in a every time a stream starts, I usually give it about 10 minutes to let people in the audience come to watch us before we officially kind of go get things started up. So, by all means, use this time to go get yourself refreshments. Make sure you're good for this. I at least want to try to aim for at least an hour or two, and if we happen to go longer than that, then that's fine. We just keep the ball rolling.
Vibing.
Exactly. It's vibing. It's just chilling, chatting. On everyone on stream, this is you can see little Lola.
Gremlin baby.
Hey, maniacal. Right now, we have our guests today. We have Hive, Mex, and Skittles, who are all here. For the most part, this is just shooting shit D&D talk. And by all means, chat, you guys feel free to keep asking questions. Anything that kind of comes to your mind based off the topics at hand is always really cool. We can use that. I have the internet right here, so we can kind of look into and delve into the history and nature of these creatures.
Oh yes, the great power of the internet.
Yes. Let's see. With that in mind, I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab something to drink.
Oh my gosh, you're drooling. Jesus.
We lost Max.
Uh-oh.
I got him.
Oh my god, you're drooling so... Oh my god, you jumped up here.
Oh.
Jesus.
Doggo?
Yeah. Big one.
Yes, they tend to try to be lapdogs.
Oh my god.
Welcome back.
Oh my god. You're too big for this.
Sorry for the Ghostbusters noise in the background.
Oh. Oh my god. My arm.
Is it your arm, or is it now the pupper's arm?
It was not my arm at that moment.
Fucking. I'm curious now.
There we go.
Nothing quite like classic Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Alright. The beast had been let loose somehow. And it was a matter of getting her back. Alright. So, you guys all good? Ready to go?
For sure.
Yeah.
And mix.
Yep.
There we go. All right. So, welcome everyone. This is kind of a first that we're gonna do of these, and I'm gonna go ahead and actually have these VODs recorded it and uploaded to the XenoLich YouTube channel sometime after within the week. But this is going live with the XenoLich, where we're gonna go ahead and talk about nerdy topics, and typically with different guests per show. Maybe you'll probably see some reoccurring ones, but today we are accompanied by Skittles, Mex, and Hive. Feel free to say
Hey.
hi.
Hello.
You all at least probably recognize Mex and Skittles from the Friday and Monday games. But today, sorry, the Monday and Saturday games. So today I thought, we just take a nice little bit of a trip where we go over some of the D&D monster stuff. There's all types of monsters that you can find in the monster manual, but when it comes down to it, everyone has favorite monsters because of certain reasons. So I just kind of want to open this up where it's along the lines of when in all of fantasy, what are some of your guys' favorite monsters that you guys have encountered or seen in whether or not it's a movie, an actual game you've played, or even in a D&D setting that you've run in yourself?
For us, I sent a picture of my guide here.
Oh yes, of course.
The Orm Vorax.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a honey badger meets a insect with a lot of legs.
Yeah, there's a few different things for this. I like the honey badger aspect because the first image kind of sells it as this big cat more or less, but then you take a look at the way its claws are, and it's definitely like not cat-like with the way its back paws are.
Yeah, it's more like a D&D monster though. It's just been on my mind lately.
Mm-hmm. Here, let's take a look about this. So, Armvax are very aggressive creatures and live solitary lives except when they mate. Adults typically claim the hunting area within a mile of their warrens, ruthlessly driving away other predators in addition to fresh meat. Voraxes are found gnawing on metals, particularly gold and copper. Their digestive system is adapted to handle metals as well as gems and minerals. Typical Vorax is only 3 feet long, but it weighs more than 200 pounds and is densely packed with muscle, thick, sturdy bones. Its coat, a molten gold and colored stripes, indicate of what other gems, minerals, or ores it's been eating, while its claws are black and sharp. All right.
They love shiny things.
Yeah, this is also so. Not only are we looking at something that has a pretty interesting digestive tract, but it also is a bit of a chonker for its size, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Thick boy.
Like what, 200 pounds?
I think it's probably heavy as hell. Oh my god, actually, because
Yeah, because I'm trying to think of like, in general, like 3 feet long is just like typically I think like the poster I plan on getting is only gonna be yay big, so like that's about like maybe my arm length. So not too long, but when it comes to its height, it's probably a different story altogether, or at least just the amount of like fur that you see on it is probably barely like surface deep.
People like to. I think it was popular to hunt those for boosting your AC as well, because their fur is tough.
Yeah.
And they eat minerals. Their AC is super high.
Mm-hmm. I think what's really interesting is the idea that these things, their fur can change. This is just my understanding, but it seems like their fur can be color coordinated based off of what gems are probably found in the region. So let's say, for example, there's a lot of amethyst nodes within like this certain mountain. You'd probably encounter a lot of purple and gold furred Voraxes with different fur patterns all over them.
Zen's ready.
Oh, that'd be dope. Oh, hey.
Oh hey, here we go.
I can pull him in.
Yeah, go for it. Let's see. All right, there we go. And so we have our other guest here. This is Zen. You would also recognize him from the Monday campaign. And I see that you're muted right now, Zen.
Yeah, sorry, I'm driving in my car right now. I forgot that I was muted from the last time I was listening to Discord.
No, it's all good. Drive safe. Right now we're kind of just going over shooting the shit based off of monsters that are definitely our favorites, or maybe ones that have been on our mind. Right now, Skittles brought up the Ormvorax, a creature that still hasn't been seen in 5th edition, but it's a pretty interesting one. At about 3 feet long and 200 pounds, these things have a digestive system that is about metals and the gems, including the fact that their coat can change colors based off of the gems in the area.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, I don't know why. I'm like, cause what isn't it like? Flamingos are also another example of animals who like they're innately white, but they turn pink because of the shrimp that they eat, right?
Yeah.
Is that wait? Is
That's
that how
what's
that works?
said, but
Yeah, it
I'm
is.
not sure if that's the actual truth,
I
though.
kind of want that to be true.
No, it is.
But
It is.
okay, what the?
They change pigments. They're not like
Yeah.
pure white.
The-
I
Obviously, they're
remember.
kind of-
Oh, here we go. The bright pink color of flamingos comes from beta carotene, a red-orange pigment that is found in high numbers within the algae and larvae and brine shrimp that the flamingos eat in their wetland
They
environments.
must eat a lot of that. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
What if
They,
it were to turn the shrimp, the brine shrimp, green? Would the flamingos all turn green then? Because they're just ingesting a whole lot of that dye.
mm-hmm.
most
Yeah.
likely.
So that's got to be the same thing that's going on with the Ormvorax, and so the usual color that you see them is gold because that's probably the most abundant resource that they go through. So, imagining like you encounter one of these things, the best way to appease them would probably be the same way you appease a Zorn, where you wanna offer it gems, but probably gold more than anything due to the color of it.
It does
Ah.
look the tastiest, I will admit. I don't think you'd have a chance to. These guys look like they grapple you and then bite and don't let go
Here, let's take a look. Let's take a look
until
at
you
this.
stop moving.
Reading further into it, the Ormvorax's weight is relative to its body size makes it a poor swimmer, and most dislike crossing water, though they can trundle along the bottom of still or slow water if necessary. Adult Vormaxes are impossible to train, but their offsprings are valued for training as guard beasts. A healthy Ormvorax kit can be sold for 5,000 gold pieces, or more to a discerning buyer. And, on the offhand, female Ormvaxes rarely give birth to more than one offspring at a time, and are ferociously protective of their young. The hide coat of an adult Vormax is heavily permitted with precious minerals, and gemstones, and it sells for about as much as 2,000 gold.
Huh.
So these things are interesting. I do see the grappling ability. They have a +4 to all athletics checks for grapples, so they really are about like pouncing on you, getting the nice little jump on you, and just eating you like full whole. Though they'll probably more sniff you out based off of who currently has the most gold in the party.
Shiniest person, yes.
Yeah, with the weight and the extra weight from, the gems in their fur, I could see it being more of a pounce and a natural. Basically, they just hold you down with their weight.
All those legs.
Let's see. This is interesting. I do like this. This is not something that I've encountered because most of my D&D knowledge comes from 5th edition and random videos I find on the internet. But I like this a lot. I would say is Hive, Mex, or Zen. What about you guys? What's a creature that you would want to bring to the table that you think is really neat?
It's called a choker, and I believe it showed up in 3rd edition first, and hasn't really, I guess, seen much. But it's a humanoid monster here.
Hold
I
on.
think I can find one here.
Choke. I'm trying to remember how to like spell this. Yeah, and chokers have come up in this edition.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't know. I just think they're really creepy. Like they're they're really like stealthy because they can't really like combat head on, so they have to surprise their foes and stuff like that. And what's interesting to me is that they like to collect like little trinkets and stuff from people they kill.
Yeah,
And
I'm seeing this
and
right
s-
here. Wow.
yeah, and sometimes they're like they're socially advanced enough at least they can like make alliances or like small friendships with like you know maybe more of the evilers types of humans or any
Wait.
type of humanoid.
Well, here let's dissect this a little bit. So, taking a look at the choker stat block, it looks like the only language it knows is deep speech. So, if it is making alliances, it's probably making alliances more with beholders and mind flayers who speak that native language.
Which is even scary.
Mm-hmm. And let's see. So here's at least
Oh, look
here.
at that
Here's at least what the.
artwork he posted. Jesus.
All right. Here's at least the I guess the flavor text that they've given us for the choker. The choker is a subterranean predator, far more dangerous than its small size and spinally rubbery limbs would suggest. Chokers have cartilage rather than a bony skeleton. This flexible internal structure enables them to easily slip into narrow fissures and niches in the wall of their cavern homes. They lurk in these spots, silent and unseen, waiting for prey to happen by. So already we see that these guys are definitely like it's kind of like the way like our octopuses are the same way, right? Where they don't have bones, they just squeeze into spaces that way.
The only hard part on them is the beak.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, they don't.
Sly trappers. A choker's usual method for luring prey involves positioning its body of its latest catch just outside of its hiding spot. Whenever it gets hungry, it tears off a few chunks of flesh to feed itself. In the meantime, the corpse serves to entice other curious humanoids. Explorers, drow, dragar, and are choker's favorite prey. Or the choker's favorite prey, goblins, to come within reach. When a target presents itself, the choker's starfish-shaped hands dart out of its hiding spot, wrap around the victim's throat, and pin the unfortunate creature against the cavern wall while choking out its life. Probably hence the name. Because its arms are so long, the choker can keep its body deep inside the crevice where it hides, beyond the reach of most normal weapons. And, lastly, lone hunters. Chokers tend to set their ambushes alone rather than working in concert, but where one creature is found, others are likely to be nearby. They communicate through eerie, kneeling howls that travel long distances through rock, but are difficult to identify or locate in the typical echo-filled cavern. The starfish limbs already kind of creep me out, just because I've never. If you look at the other side of the starfish and the way they actually consume things, it's terrifying.
Yeah, this one kind of reminds me
look at
of.
the piece of art. It has like little spikes on its hands and. Oh god.
Here, hold on.
It's
Underside of starfish. Go for it.
This kind of reminded me of the drowners from The Witcher.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god. I think one of the best instances of how scary this thing can be, if you guys had seen that that one SpongeBob horror comic where like Patrick becomes a monster.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way of realizing that. Put that on a smaller scale. That's kind of what the choker is doing to a person.
This gives me vibes of Left 4 Dead, the one infected that kind of shoots its tongue at people and just drags them away.
The smoker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Plus, I think what's really interesting, you could totally like chokers. While they're pretty low on the challenge rating, they probably make for very good like horror-based encounters because of the fact that you don't typically, from the way it seems like it hunts, you probably wouldn't actually see the body of a choker before you'd see its actual tendrils.
Yeah. Oh, that's from Pathfinder.
Oh,
Same
that's still cool. It's the same monster.
Same
love
monster.
I love its eyes though. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
That's what I'm saying. Reminds me a lot of the Drowner, especially with the artwork that's happening.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what a cutie though. I've always been like the very smooth skin one that you presented us from Pathfinder is really enticing compared to the one that looks almost lumpy from the way its skin is in the
lumpy.
yeah.
It does look lumpy. Oh my gosh.
I think what's interesting about the original artwork that you posted is the way its spine is, especially because these things are like so it states that they're boneless, but yet we clearly see this like long ass spine and back that's actually sticking out. Though that's probably just a way to make it look humanoid.
Yeah.
Cartilaginous.
Oh,
Yeah. That if that's a word, that word.
It's just like, this is what people look like, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just attempting to. That's really cool. I like that, Hyde. All right, Mexizan, what about you guys? What is one of your guys' favorite monsters?
Are you talking about like favorite as far as like dangerous, or favorite as far as like just interesting?
Let's probably go with the interesting fact, because so far we've been seeing a lot of creatures that, like, while they're dangerous in their own respect, in the grander scheme of D&D, they're on the lower spectrum of the actual challenge rating scale.
All right, rust monster.
Ooh, okay. So here, tell me a little bit about like why you like the rust monster.
Just because it's not necessarily deadly as it is dangerous to all of your equipment, because it can actually destroy all of your equipment.
Right.
Highly inconvenient monster.
Yeah.
Not
Very inconvenient.
inconvenient is not the way to look at it, though. This thing is dangerous in the fact that it destroys your equipment, but also the fact that if you have something really valuable, it'll fucking just take it out. So
Yeah. Here, let's go ahead and take a look into the actual read for the rust monster. So this is a little bit of a read. So most dwarves would rather face a squad of orcs than confront a single rust monster. These strange, normally docile creatures corrode ferrous metals, then gobble up the rust they create. In doing so, they have ruined the armor, shields, and weapons of countless adventurers. A rust monster's body is covered in thick, lumpy armor. Its long tail ends in a bony protrusion, and two feathery antennae sprout from its insectile head. Underground scavengers. Rust monsters roam subterranean passages in search of ferrous metals such as iron, steel, adamantine, and mithril to consume. They ignore creatures not carrying such metals, but can become aggressive towards those bearing steel weapons and armor. A rust monster can smell food at a distance, immediately dashing towards the scent source to corrode and consume the object. A rust monster doesn't care if the rust it consumes comes from a spike or a sword. Adventurers can distract a creature by dropping ferrous objects behind them.
So I'm gonna change to my my computer real quick. So
Here,
I'll just be right back.
Yeah, go for it.
I wonder what would happen if this thing met one of the Ormborax.
Mm-hmm. Alright, and there we go. How you doing now?
I'm good. Okay.
Okay, perfect. And here's the last little bit. Subterranean wanderers. Rust monsters are rarely found in large numbers, preferring to hunt alone or in small groups. They meander along tunnels, moving from cave to cave in their tireless search for ferrous metals to consume. Their wanderings often bring them into contact with other Underdark denizens that find them harmless or unappetizing. Thus, rust monsters may be found in close proximity to other subterranean creatures. If they are well treated and well fed, they can also become friendly companions or pets. That's great. So, I think the biggest part about this is innately rust monster, creatures that consume your material are already pretty terrifying as it is. But I didn't read into the rust monster to know that it eats adamantine, the literal hardest material in D&D that has immunity to criticals.
Yeah, that's big.
That is.
But it says non-magical weapons though, right?
Let's see. No, I mean, it just says ferrous metals, such as iron, steel, adamantine, and mithril. They can eat mithril as well, which I think mithril is innately magical.
Mm-hmm.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Interesting.
Now, how absolutely terrifying would it be to have your weapons that you've been working so hard on to be just basically rendered into piles of rust by this thing?
Which is pretty interesting, because let's also take a look into the rust monster. It specifically states that on its stat block is saying something entirely different, because it says any non-magical weapons made of metal that hits the rust monster corrode. And so this is only apparent that if you attack the rust monster, indicating that it has a way of defending itself against such metals as well, but nothing about it actually attacking you.
Of them actually attacking.
Yeah, because all it is right here. It just says they can rust metal by actually touching them without them needing to touch you.
Oh.
You physically hurting them also rust your weapons. However, nowhere in its stat block does it state about the ability to do it to your armor, nor its attacks doing anything to your armor.
I'd say that probably it would be
Here.
the antenna. It says
Yeah.
the rust monster corrodes a non-magical ferrous object. So basically, if he's touching you with his antenna or anything like that,
It's
It
funny that they add that it can see part.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
If the object isn't being worn or carried, the touch destroys a 1 foot cube of it. Wow. And you have to make a dex save to avoid the rust monster's touch with its feathery antennas.
Yep.
Which, that's kind of a big thing. So with these, with usually with the most heaviest of armor being plate mail, the one thing you would not expect a rust monster to do is actually land a hit on that person. But because the fact that the antenna is a dexterity required saving throw, it means that heavy armored person, who more than likely has a pretty low dex, has a decent chance of failing it if they didn't invest anything into their dex.
And losing their stuff.
Mm-hmm. Granted, of course, I think the stat block definitely doesn't pull off from the way it's stated, because all of this are talking about non-magical metals. Hold on, let me also take a look. I don't exactly know.
I feel like if it's mithril, then
here,
but I don't know.
ferrous metals are primarily used for their tensile strength and durability. So the adjective ferrous indicates a compound that contains iron in the +2 oxidization state, possibly as the divalent cash. Okay.
Oh shoot!
So
What would happen if it was fighting a warforged though?
the warforged would probably die up until. Well, sorry, the warforged would probably take a good amount of damage that would be unrepaired. However, though, when you look at warforges can be made of metal, stone, or wood. And while maybe the plating that they have is metal, the inner parts of a warforge are more wooden than anything because it's easier for that to move around. That's crazy, Hon. Yeah, let me pull up Warforge. Yeah, Warforges are made from wood and metal, and if just taking a look at like example images of Warforge, you can see that underneath a lot of the plating that they wield is the wooden structure beneath. Interesting. I like this though. That was a pretty cool one. I can definitely dig rust monsters. It's a shame that like the only times I've ever seen rust monsters in D&D are either in Out of the Abyss, which makes sense because it's an entire subterranean adventure, or Waterdeep Dragon Heist, which is an urban adventure, but it's pretty funny to know that rust monsters scour the sewers like big cockroaches.
Yep.
All right.
They are scavengers. So
let's see. And already I can see what Mex's monster that he wants to bring to the table. Now this is definitely something of the higher end of the creatures we've talked about so far, and it's up here, boasting a very big stat block and very lightning based. So Mex, tell us a little bit about why it is that the Behir is what you wanted to bring to the table.
Well, I'm pretty sure you had one of the groups face a Behir, which they ended up talking their way out of it. But I liked a little bit of lore that they created by giants to help them fight dragons.
Yes. So, for the most part, Behirs have been a thing that in D&D, same thing to what I say with rust monsters. They're more native to a lot of the Underdark regions, especially because you can see the dark vision that they innately have. The one time I've seen a Behir used in the actual pre-made modules is in Out of the Abyss, where it is heavily based off the Underdark. Though not in like the caverns that you'd expect, Behirs are definitely in more like higher end areas that are very constructed to be where they are. Taking a look into the actual description, it states, the serpentine Behir crawls along floors and chambers up the walls to reach its prey. Its lightning breath can incinerate most creatures, even as more powerful foes are constricted in its coils and eaten alive. A Behir's monstrous form resembles a combination between centipede and crocodile. Its scaled hide rearranges from ultramarine to deep blue in color, fading to pale blue on the underside. Cavern predators. Behirs lair in places inaccessible to other creatures, favoring locations where would-be intruders must make a harrowing climb to reach them. Deep pits, high caves and cliff walls, and caverns reached only by narrow, twisting tunnels and prime sites of a Behir ambush. A Behir's dozen legs allow it to scramble through its lair with ease. When not climbing, it moves even faster by folding its legs besides its body and slithering like a snake. Behirs swallow their prey whole, after which they enter a period of dormancy while they digest. While dormant, a Behir chooses a hiding place where intruders in its lair might overlook it. And of course, here we go, foes of the dragons. In a times long forgotten, giants and dragons engaged in seamlessly endless war. Storm giants created the first Behirs as weapons against the dragons, and Behirs retain a natural hatred for dragonkind. A Behir never makes its lair in the area it's known to be inhabited by a dragon. If a dragon attempts to establish a lair with a few dozen miles of Behir's lair, the Behir is compelled to kill the dragon and drive it off. Only if the dragon proves too powerful to fight does the Behir back down, seeking out a new lair a great distance away. Which I like the fact that not only are they made to fight the dragons, they were clearly made to understand and maybe use their words against the dragons because they know how to speak Draconic. That's definitely like an intriguing thing. Part of me is laughing a little bit at the idea that maybe the giants built them to know Draconic just to insult them.
Oh my gosh.
But
They're kind of cool.
yeah, what was that, Hive?
I could totally see that. Them knowing Draconic just to insult them. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and taking a look at these beautiful photos. But here's definitely like, I'd like, as much as I like these, I can totally just picture the Behir taking more along the lines of the first image you posted, Mix, because that one boasts a more serpentine look than the second one, which makes me feel more like spiny dragon.
Well, the first one is a regular Bahir. The second one's supposed to be an elder one.
An
That's why it
elder
looked a little
one.
bit
Hell
different.
yeah.
Okay.
I got my packages from Amazon today.
Ooh, hell yeah. Let's see. Oh, hold on, I almost forgot. So let's see.
I gotta learn Japanese within 1 year and be fluent in it.
Oh
So-
god. You know, here. Let me go ahead and steer this. I really like this. We've been doing with a lot of Underdark creatures. So I want to see, I think this one creature I know is also Underdark. No, it is not. Okay. I was more thinking along the lines of, when it came to my favorite creatures, the creatures that drove me and really like got me into D&D and wanting to be a DM to throw it, just for the pure purpose of like throwing these creatures at my players, were the Slod.
Oh, those
A
things.
slod.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know about those.
So,
I think we ran into one,
yes.
or at least one of the monks did.
Slods are D&D's innate ways of making alien, the xenomorphs in D&D. These toad-looking like creatures are definitely on the scarier side of the spectrum for when it comes down to it. Hold on, I'm like, copy image, posting stuff in voice text. Wow. Open image in new tab. Yeah, here we go. There are different color slots based off of what we're looking at, and the slots have a lot of history behind them. Part of like why I really like them is just because they're so embedded into the lore of an entirely different plane of existence that when slot are like a deal, or when slots are dealt with, you know it's like something big. But hold on, let me go ahead and just head up back to the very top of this where it goes. So, Slod, unlike the creatures that we've seen so far, do not exhibit in the material plane like I've stated. They are in the ever-changing chaos of limbo. Bits of forest and meadow and ruined castles and isolated islands drift through the tumult of fire, water, earth, and wind. The foremost inhabitants of this inhospitable plane are the toad-like Slotty. Slotty are undisciplined and have no formal hierarchy. Although weaker Slotty obey stronger ones under threats of annihilation. And then this goes into a bit of the Faerun history about the spawning stone, which states that long ago Primus, overlord of the Modrons, created a gigantic geometrically complex stone imbued with the power of law. He then cast it adrift in limbo, believing that the stone would bring order to the chaos of the plane and halt the spread of chaos to other planes. As the stone's power grew, it became possible for creatures with ordered minds such as Modrons and Githzerai to create enclaves in limbo. However, Primus' creation had an unforeseen side effect. The chaotic energy absorbed by the stone spawned the horrors that came into be known as the Slotty. Sages referred to Primus' massive creation as the spawning stone for this region. The Slotty wiped out every last Modron enclave in limbo, As creatures of other chaos, Slotty loathe Modron and attack them on sight. Nonetheless, Primus stands by his creation and either doesn't perceive the Slotty as threats or chooses to ignore them. And then here goes the birth and transformation. Slotty have horrific cycles of reproduction. Slotty reproduce either by implanting humanoid hosts with eggs or by infecting them with transformative diseases called chaos phage. Each color of Slod reproduces or transforms in a different way, with red Slod spawning blue Slod and green Slotty, and blue Slotty spawning red and green. Each green Slod undergoes a lifelong cycle of transformation into the more powerful gray and death Slotty. With each transformation, the Slod retains its memories. And lastly, shape changers. Some Slotty can transform to the humanoid creatures from which they were originally spawned. These Slotty return to the material plane to sow discord in the guise of their former selves. And quite a bit to unpack there, but Slod have always been like some of my favorite creatures for like just the way like they are, how they reproduce and they chest burst out of you.
Oh, we get it.
That
You're an
blue
alien
guy,
file.
that
Yes.
big boy, a
I mean, I
xenophile.
do like how the different colors denote what they kind of do.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, a specific color focuses on magic, another one's just brute force.
I think if of all of them, the blue Slot is like blue Slot are stronger than red Slot because blue Slot were like mutated people, whereas like red Slot are the ones that let's see, hold on. Okay, no. So here, red Slot and blue Slot, of the two, red Slots are weaker because red Slots are humans that have been affected by chaos phage and transformed into a Slot, whereas blue Slots are the tadpoles that break out of you. So it's like good to know that like a transformed Slod is least threatening than just like a purebred Slod. Fucking love all these little boys. So cool. The only thing that I think was really interesting was
Don't ever say that again.
these little boys.
Oh my goodness.
I just think it's really interesting because Death Slod, it's how do I put it? There's no real indication as far as I've seen that says like how a Slod turns from a gray Slod into a death Slod. But here's one thing I find really interesting. So Slod are pretty scary. They have a lot of things going on with them, especially with the fact that they have this whole like infestation thing. But inside of every Slod is a gem. Slod, from what I understand, don't actually have like organs and such. They're just kind of bloop, into existence. So inside of their body, it can be like inside their hand, in their forehead, in their belly, is a gem that controls them. If you get this gem, you actually control the Slod that it belongs to.
What about putting it in a non-magical field?
I don't know about that. Here, let's see. As Slod emerges from the spawning stone, the stone magically implants a fragment of itself in the Slod's brain. This fragment takes the form of a magic gem roughly the size of a human child's fist. The gem is the same color as the Slod. Another creature can use magic to draw forth a Slod's gem and use it to subjugate the Slod. Slod must obey whoever possesses the gem. If the gem is destroyed, the Slod can no longer be controlled in this way. A Slod born from something other than the spawning stone has no gem in its brain, but it gains one if it ever comes into contact with the spawning stone. Slotty on Limbo are attracted to the spawning stone, so most end up with a gem. A Slod with the control gem in its brain has the following additional trait. Control gem. Implanted, the Slod must obey whoever possesses the gem. Certain spells must be used to acquire the gem. If a Slod fails a saving throw against imprisonment, the spell can transfer the gem into the spellcaster's open hand, instead of imprisoning the Slod. A wish spell, if cast in the Slod's presence, can be acquired to get the gem. Or a greater restoration spell cast in the Slod destroys the gem without harming the Slod. Oh, here we go. Here's another way. The more
anti-magic field.
Yeah, the more physical approach. Someone who's proficient in medicine can remove the gem from an incapacitated Slod. Every try requires 1 minute of uninterrupted work and a successful medicine check. Each failed attempt does 4d10 psychic damage to the Slod.
Jesus. That's a lot.
Yeah, you're hurting the creature by trying to reach into his brain and pull out its gem. I like this a lot. Here, Let me go ahead and what were some other creatures that you guys would definitely want to like see a little bit more of? Oh, hold on. There we go. Someone had dipped down. I didn't even notice.
I I think I posted the Bodak, those things.
Ooh.
They're like remnants of like what is it? Crap. It was on my brain.
I know what you're referring to. I've seen Bodaks a few times. Bodaks are terrifying.
I think they like become that after they die by like an evil creature or something like really evil. Like I think Nightwalkers can like make the humanoids they kill into Bodaks.
Here, let's go ahead
Or, like,
and pull this up. Oh, actually, hold on. Let me quickly set this up right here. Okay. So, a Bodak is the undead remains of someone who revered Orcus, devoted of life and soul. It exists only to cause death. Marked by Orcus. A worshipper of Orcus can take ritual vows while carving the Demon Lord symbols on its chest over the heart. Orcus's power flays body, mind, and soul, leaving behind a sentient husk that sucks in all life energy near it. Most Bodaks come into being in this way, then unleash to spread death in Orcus's name. Orcus created the first Bodaks in the Abyss from 7 devotees, called the Hierophants of Annihilation. These figures, as mighty as Balors, have free will but serve the Prince of Undeath directly, and only one of these Bodaks can turn a slain mortal into a Bodak with its gaze. Like each Hierophant of Annihilation, every Bodak bears the mark of Orcus as a chest wound, an opening where the mortal's humanoid heart would be. Orcus can recall anything a Bodak sees or hears. If he so chooses, he can speak through a Bodak to address his enemies and followers directly. Bodaks are extensions of Orcus' will outside of the Abyss, serving the Demon Prince's aims and other minions. Unhallowed fragments. A Bodak retains vague impressions of its past life. It seeks out both its former allies and former enemies to destroy them as its warped soul seeks to erase anything connected to its former life. Minions of Orcus are the one exception to this compulsion. A Bodak recognizes them as kindred souls and spares them from its wrath. Anyone who knew the individual before its transformation into a Bodak can recognize mannerisms or other subtle clues to its original identity. Even nature despises Bodaks. The sun burns away a Bodak's tainted flesh. The creature's gaze lay waste to the living. Anyone a Bodak slays with its gaze withers, its face frozen in a mask of terror. The monster's mere presence is so unnatural that it chills the soul. Animals untrained for war instinctively flee before a Bodak arrives. And lastly, here are the last just 2 bits. Ravaged Soul. The soul of a creature that became a Bodak is so damaged that it is unfit for most forms of magical resurrection. Only the Wish spell or similar magic can return a Bodak to its former life. And undead nature. Bodaks do not require air, food, drink, or sleep. Overall, they're just so terrifying creatures that strike fear. There's an interesting image that I like for this. I'll pull it up right now. If any of you had ever heard of Tomb of Annihilation,
oh yeah,
there is a section of Tomb of Annihilation that involves Bodaks. I think this is it. Yes, I was right. So Bodaks, pretty terrifying from the image that you presented, but look at this.
oh my gosh, one's like crawling out of the fucking mouth right there. Jesus.
Yeah. It's supposed to be the idea that when you enter this maze, these 2 Bodaks come crawling out and squeal out, so that you're like, oh no, what is that? And then only when the Bodaks arrive do I show my players the image of what they see, and they're usually like, what?
Yeah, those things are spooky. I think it's very obvious that I like the more like horror like oriented monsters.
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely, there's a lot of appeal. There's a lot of appeal to horror stuff because in D&D, it's really in my opinion, without the proper music or atmosphere, players can't exactly feel the fear that you're trying to instill on them just from a mere image, because there's a lot of disconnect. That it's like, oh, it's just a thing that we're fighting, versus, oh, this is a thing that's going to break our souls.
Yeah.
I like that. I also like the sneaky horror
Mm-hmm.
too. So like the not necessarily jump scare, but the definitely didn't see that coming kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Just gonna put this one here because I think these are interesting too.
Kind of like this guy. He's a dark mantle.
Oh, those things
So
they look so cool, but man,
yeah. Here, at least let's take a look at this. On a more lighter note, I do see one of the creatures that Mex is bringing in, and I, for one, do not know a lot about the creature that we're about to pull up called the Rakshasa.
I love them
Rakshasa.
Here,
because
tell.
they're strong and could normally defeat an adventurer, but they much more prefer to be underground bosses or leader. They love to be leaders of secret organizations. That's their whole deal.
Okay. So what are we looking at? Kind of like a mob boss type deal.
Yeah, they're basically devils who love interacting with humans and the dark side of humanity. That they decided to come to the mortal plane and just hang out.
Yeah, it's crazy. I did not like for the longest time. I didn't actually look at the stat block of the creature to know that it's a fiend. What the fuck? Yeah, it just looks like some tiger dude. What? It's fucking Tony the Tiger as a mob boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally, they take great pain into preventing people knowing that they're fiends. So they turn into the friendly lion who runs the underground ring of trafficking.
That's cool. Here,
Oh
hold on.
yes, friendly feline that does trafficking.
Right? So he just does trafficking. There's no issue with that. There's
Ba-
go for it.
Basically, the only thing they're
Skull
afraid
Alley.
of
Oh god.
is another one of themselves because they know if another one shows up in town, they're coming to take over.
Yeah, that's cool because so check this out. One of the NPCs that you encounter in Waterdeep Dragon Heist is a Rakshasa, though not for that reason. Not for the reason that they're normally put. This is an example. So, in Waterdeep Dragon Heist, there is a shop. You're supposed to be getting like a tavern that you're able to run. Yes, Tavern Simulator is a thing in D&D for this adventure, and so with this establishment, there are neighbors and other businesses that you're supposed to be getting to know because they can be greatly helpful. One of which is called the Tiger's Eye. Kind of ironic for what the Rakshasa is, but I digress. This private detective's business is unremarkable to the outside. Its only distinguishing mark an orange and black sign featuring a cat's eye. Inside is a regal apartment dimly lit by flickering oil lamps. The door is locked and visitors must knock or ring the bell before being let in. And here it says they are met by Vincent Trench, a human detective and the owner of the Tiger's Eye. He speaks concisely, dressed in a sharp suit, and smokes a slim pipe. Vincent is, in fact, a Rakshasa named Valentajar that always cast disguised self on themselves before seeing visitors. The Rakshasa has lived in Waterdeep for years, switching identities as often as needed to keep its true nature hidden. It has grown accustomed to living among mortals, much to its own amusement. It is rather fond of Waterdeep and its citizens. And so, talking to him, you realize that Vincent is able to offer you a service. Trench can discover any secret in Waterdeep for a fee. Use your judgment when pricing its services. 50 gold pieces is sufficient for most investigations, but if the characters want to learn secrets relating to major antagonists in the adventure, the Rakshasa might require a service in payment such as slaying enemies that are hunting it, posting advertisements for its businesses in their tavern, or keeping tabs on someone business has been hired to spy on. So, noting that like this is not a Rakshasa that's exactly running some sort of like mob organization, at least as far as we know, based off of what it's told the DM, because this is like text for the DM. But he is he is very like openly offering services under the guise of someone else. Huh. Cool.
I do like how it still fits because he's gathering information from like groups that usually people don't want to mess with.
And now, like this is one of the things I like about this because researching about this, if you're someone who doesn't know anything about the Rakshasa and you just see Tiger Man, you're like, oh, okay, I guess it's a secret because people don't like monsters. But when you realize that when the characters might want to get more information, like bigger end information, and the part that I like here, such as slaying enemies that are hunting the Rakshasa, it means that that's a perfect example to throw some fiends or fiends towards the adventurers that might be going after the Rakshasa for territorial purposes because of another one. Oh, this is really cool.
These are so interesting.
Yeah, I like the innate magic. I like the plane shift, the true seeing, the fly, and the dominate person about these things. As much as I didn't go into the description, because I do kind of want to see what else there is on the table. Let's see. So Skittles, tell us a little bit about what you've given us.
The dark mantles.
Yes.
You had mentioned like Underdark creatures, and I was thinking to myself, yeah, these are fucking awesome. I love cephalopods, so I've done a lot of research into tentacly things within D&D, and these guys are fun because they're not water creatures. They disguise themselves as stalactites in caves in the Underdark, and they drop down on adventurers. So terrifying. You don't know very much about them until they're on your face and trying to eat you.
Yeah. What the fuck? I think usually whenever I've thought about dark mantles, I always pair them up with their with the complete opposite end of like as far as the look goes, because I think it's called a roper, that is also like a dark mantle disguises itself as a stalactite, where a roper on the other hand disguises itself as a stalagmite. Interesting combination when you run the two of them together, because they just, you know.
Rovers are crazy too, but giant rock squid that falls on you and eats you out of nowhere.
I don't know why. Now taking a look at the way the dark mantle is, have you guys so hold on, from I guess, how many of you have played the Dark Souls series?
I have.
Okay.
I have played all of them.
Okay. So a few of you will know what I'm referring to. Then in Dark Souls 2, there's like the weird hand creatures that can jump on you and eat your head.
Oh yeah, that like one area. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a cavern filled area with poison shooting all over the ends. The dark mantles remind me a lot of those types of creatures where they just jump on you and just eat your head off.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Here, let's read a little bit more into this, because it's a pretty small thing for such an interesting creature. The dark mantle clings to cavern ceilings, remaining perfectly still as it waits for creatures to pass beneath it. From a distance, it can pass itself off as a stalactite or a lump of stone. Then it drops from the ceiling and unfurls, surrounding itself with magical darkness as it engulfs and crushes its prey. Dark mantles are found throughout the Underdark, but they are equally common on the Shadowfell. Thriving in that dark realm, they fill an ecological niche similar to bats in the material plane. Intelligent creatures of the Shadowfell sometimes train dark mantles as guardians or companions. That's cool. I think what I completely just did not know about these things was the aura of magical darkness that they surround themselves with. Because, it is now dark around your head. I have dark vision. It is magical darkness. Oh fuck.
They are very much ambush predators. They're super cool. They match their skin to the environment. They can see.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they see. Because it's blind sight. Never mind. They're really cool. They're super cool.
Yeah. Here. So, Hive is bringing in a pretty interesting one to the table from what I'm seeing. So, do you know the name of the creature, Hive, or no? That you brought up?
I'm trying to see if I can pronounce it right. I think it's like Atropal or whatever, something like that. I know they show up in Tomb of Annihilation, and I remember like reading like the description for it one day, and I was like, damn, these things are kind of fucked up.
Oh, here, I think I'm gonna just go with Atropal, because that's
probably Atropal.
Yeah, the Atropals are fucking intense. This let's go ahead and take a look at the description, because there's a bit to unpack with these creatures. An Atropal is a ghastly, unfinished creation of an evil god, cast adrift and abandoned long ago. Since an Atropal was never truly alive, it can't be raised from the dead or resurrected by any means. Even divine intervention can't breathe true life into this hateful, miserable horror. and Atropal is malformed and unfinished. Its wet, wrinkled, and bloated body is surmounted by a hairless, overlarge head, set with ghastly, vacant eyes. Its constant drooling, stinking ichor as it mouths obscenities. Its arms are too slender with tiny hands, ending in crudely shaped nails. And Atropal never walks but always float, with its atrophied dead legs hanging useless beneath it. Negative energy connection. The shriveled umbilical cord of an Atropal appears to trail off into nothingness, but in fact, it attaches to the negative plane. This connection gives the Atropal power over death and undeath. The cord can be severed via Vorpal sword or other Vorpal weapons, and doing so weakens the Atropal's tie to the negative plane. An Atropal can summon vestiges of creatures that died in the negative plane, which manifest as wraiths. These servants can exist outside the negative plane only by an Atropal's sheer force of will, and they quickly dissipate when the Atropal is destroyed. And of course, undead nature, they don't need air, food, drink, or sleep. You are fighting an undead god fetus.
Yeah.
God, just
It's pretty
It's
nasty.
Bloodborne all over again.
right. Oh man, looking at the creature itself is pretty cool. But
It's so fitting for them to show up in Tomb of Annihilation.
mm-hmm. And it makes 100% sense, because for those this stream is gonna be filled with quite a bit of D&D story lore, but the Acererak is by far one of my most favorite creatures of all time. Is one of my favorite named creatures of all time, and his biggest thing is that why be a god when you can create gods? So typically, if you're seeing a Atropal around, Acererak probably isn't too far behind it, since his whole thing is about creating these new gods. Oh man, and just like look at this whole image. This thing has its umbilical cord. Instead of being connected to the Shadowfell, the adventure has the Atropal has its umbilical cord connected to a wellspring of souls that Acererak has cursed the entire world to like draw people's souls into this vat.
I think every time you say his name is the Nokia meme. I think you've stumbled upon my phylactery.
Yes. Acerek's phylactery, the Nokia phone, truly an amazing indestructible artifact.
What do you know about flail snails?
Flail snails? Oh, flail snails are a whole thing in themselves. But here, let's take this topic to something that I know is gonna be a fun one for a few of us, and it's the Displacer Beast. Displacer Beasts are fun. They are very cute, and they just can do so much damage to an unsuspecting party.
Now this is one I've never seen before.
Really now?
Yeah.
So here.
It's it's been an older one. It's been around for quite a while.
Yeah. So check this out, Hive. So first off, from its name, what can you gauge from its name and the look of the creature? What can you gauge already from it?
From like the name, I feel like if it touches someone with one of those like weird like, I don't even know what to call those.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it could like banish them to somewhere else or like
Not
displace
exactly.
their organs. I don't know.
All right. I can see what you're going with. Here's an interesting thing that, as far as the image goes, they utilize for it. Han. All right. So here's an interesting thing. Now count. So looking from its head, follow the body along, and you see how it has two shoulders.
Yeah.
Okay, so creatures are at least to balance themselves right. It should be mirroring on the other side. So with two shoulders, and that would indicate that it has 4 limbs in its upper body. Now count how many legs are in its upper body.
This doesn't seem right.
Yes, it probably is also its hind leg that's sticking up further ahead. But check this out. The monstrous predator takes its name from its ability to displace light so that it appears to be several feet away from its actual location. A displacer beast resembles a sleek giant cat covered in blue-black fur. However, its otherworldly origins are clear in its 6 legs and 2 tentacles sprouting from its shoulders. Both...
Hey, I'm gonna get going for a second. I gotta do something real quick.
All right. We'll see you soon. Both ending in pads tipped with spiky protrusions. A displacer beast's eye glow with an awful malevolence that persists even in death. Unsile origins. Displacer beasts roamed the twilight lands of the Feywild for ages until they were captured and trained by the Unseal Court. The warriors of the court selectively bred the beasts to reinforce their ferocious and predatory nature, using them to hunt unicorns, pegasi, and other wondrous prey. However, it didn't take long for the displacer beasts to use their malevolent intelligence to escape from their masters. Running and breeding freely in the Feywild, the displacer beasts soon came to the attention of the Seal Court, with blink dog companions at their side. Fey hunters drove these predators to the fringes of the Feywild, where they crossed over to the material plane. To this day, displacer beasts and blink dogs attack each other on sight. And love of the kill. Displacer beasts kill not just for food, but also for sport. They target prey even when not hungry, often toying with their victims to entertain themselves until they're ready to eat. After killing its prey using its tentacles, a displacer beast drags the corpse to a quiet place where it can feed without distraction. Displacer beasts hunt alone, or in small prides that demonstrate skill at setting ambushes. A single beast will strike and withdraw, luring prey into a densely wooded area, where its pack mates await. Packs of displacer beasts hunting near trade roads recall the frequency and schedule of regular caravans, laying down ambushes to pick off those caravans. And lastly, prized guards and pets. Intelligent, evil creatures favor displacer beasts as pets, but a displacer beast enters such an alliance only if it appears beneficial. A displacer beast might guard a vault or act as a bodyguard for a prominent individual. So, pretty good to know. They're smarter than your average animal. They aren't smart enough to speak a language or have an intelligence higher than 6, but they can make for some pretty ferocious felines to meet.
Oh yeah.
They even have a drake version of that too. So displacer drakes are a thing. They're
Oh?
basically the same size except more draconic. They got little wings.
Ooh,
Used
hold on.
for pretty much the same thing.
Let's go ahead and pull that up. Hold on. Reduce threat. This is a whole nother thing in itself. A reduced threat displacer. Okay, so I know there's definitely going to be displacer drakes. Let's go ahead and pull that up.
Yeah, what I like about the feud between the blink dog and the displacer beast is that the displacer's beast like field, like their fur, messes with the blink dog's ability to blink. So they just annoy each other on a molecular level, which is why their hate continues.
That's actually fucking hilarious
And
to know.
It's really
it carries
cute.
over. So if someone has a cloak of displacement, a blink dog will hate that person and attack them on sight because of the fur.
Oh man, I remember if I recall this correctly, the displacer beast, it's not just the tentacles aren't just used because of the how they can really do some damage. I think those also play into how it actually displaces light. But, you know, I digress. These things, imagine you're fighting a creature where it's like, oh, we're pretty far away from this thing. This thing can displace, let's see, standing near its actual locations. So it's always like you're seeing, like, wherever it is, it's probably like 5 feet or 10 feet to the left or to the right or even forward or backward from where it's standing. So you can never really, like, properly pinpoint where you're fighting it. And so fights with displacer beasts, part of the challenge rating comes with the fact that you're always attacking with disadvantage due to the fact that it's never really like in one spot. But let's go ahead and
God,
save.
this seems so annoying to fight.
Right
Oh, Lord.
here. Skittles is bringing it up, and she stated a very fun one to pull up. Now, have you heard of a flail snail?
No, actually.
Look at this.
I can see why it's called a flail snail now.
Now, the flail snail is huge, by the way. I know there's an image for this thing as well. So
It's like a huge creature.
yes, it is a
Oh
huge
my-
creature. Let me pull up. Because there's this whole thing about them. I love this book as well. Okay, let me pull it up. Flail snail images. Here we go.
Wow.
Yeah, flail snails are really cool. Take a look at this. So, a flail snail is a creature of elemental earth that is prized for its multi-hued shell. Hunters might be lulled into a false sense of confidence upon sighting this ponderous, seemingly non-hostile creature. If any other creature large enough to be a threat approaches too close, though the snail unleashes a flash of scintillating light and attacks with its mace-like tentacles. Trail of treasure. Left undisturbed, a flail snail moves slowly along the ground, consuming everything on the surface, including rock, sand, and soil. Stopping to relish crystal growths and other large mineral deposits, it leaves behind a shimmering trail that quickly solidifies into a thin layer of nearly transparent, subtle substance inedible to the snail. This glassy residue can be harvested to cut to form window panes of varying clearness. It can also be heated and spun into glass objects of other sorts. Some humanoids make a living from trailing flail snails to collect the glass. So, already, the flail snails are just a treasure trove in themselves. This is established in the YouTube video about them, but all taking a look at the fact that there's the very ground that they walk on leaves like essentially an infinite amount of glass that you can work with. But using the shell of a flail snail shell, which weighs about 250 pounds, has numerous uses. One intact shell can sell for 5,000 gold pieces, and many hunters seek the shell for its anti-magic properties. A skilled armor can make 3 shields from one shell. For 1 month, each shield gives its wearer the snail's anti-magic shell trait. When the shield magic fades, it leaves behind an exotic shield that is perfect item for which to make a spell guard shield. A flail snail shell can also be used to make a robe of scintillating colors. The shell is grounded and added to the dye in which while the garment is being fashioned. The powder is also a material component of rituals that enhance the robe. So, what's that special type of material that clothing and accessories have, where it looks almost like rainbow-esque? Rainbow shiny clothes. I know, right? Fucking
Holographic?
Yeah, I think.
Images. There's like a... Okay.
He's gonna get a lot of holographic stuff.
This right here. Reflective rainbow. Silver holographic. Yeah, I guess that's it. Hold on. Let me pull up. Silver holograph. Images. Yeah. So I can totally imagine like the flail snail, like when you grind up its shell, it resembles something along the lines of this.
Oh yeah.
It's like abalone shell. I don't know if you've seen those.
It's like what?
Very abalone. ABALONE.
Ooh. Don't know about that actually.
I'm sure once you see it, you'll know.
Here. A B A
LONE.
Yep. Oh, that's
Oh,
so
wow.
pretty. Yeah, there's totally a lot you can work with these creatures for.
Yeah. I think my favorite parts, and by favorite I mean most interesting, not my actual like, oh that's my favorite thing about these things, is that when they die, they start crying. Like they're
my
wailing
God.
in agony, crying out in pain.
Let's see. I think it's right. Let's see. Damage. Oh, here we go. So, the flail snail has five flail tentacles. Whenever the snail takes 10 damage or more to a single turn, one of the tentacles dies. If even one tentacle remains, the snail regrows all dead ones within 1d4 days. If all the tentacles die, the snail retracts into its shell, gaining total cover, as it begins wailing a sound that can be heard for over 600 feet, stopping only when it dies 5d6 minutes later. Healing magic that restores the limbs, such as the regenerate spell, can halt this dying process. But notice how it says dying. So once you cut off the flail tentacles, it's dead. And then for what is potentially 5 minutes to half an hour of constant wailing for over 600 feet.
which is bound to attract other monsters.
Yep. But at that point, it's not doing it because it's like trying to get attention. It's doing it because it's just dying. So it just is screaming its last breath.
I think this monster was interesting because a lot of it is setting up a party to test its morals, but also a good way to punish them.
Yeah.
If you want to be creative, if they do end up killing it.
Yeah, because the flail snail really is like, there's a lot of reasons why you would want to kill them. I think it's also stated, not here, but that the flail snail's actual like the carcass itself can also be utilized for some purpose. But
its
it's like
exact shell is 5,000 gold pieces.
Yeah, the shell is worth 5,000. The very trail it leaves behind is glass, and the body itself could probably be utilized for some alchemical purposes.
So this stomach and liver can be used as ingredients for elixir of health.
Yes.
It's the snail itself is immune to poison, so that's one that could negate effects of poisons.
Oh yeah, don't forget, it's not only that; it's also fire as well.
Yeah, so the skin and protective mucus can be ground up and used to produce fire-resistant potions.
That's interesting.
Can also be ingredients to produce potions of climbing.
Yeah. So it's like you take this creature. Hey guys, here's a little treasure trove of a creature, but if you kill it, you're horrible people.
Pretty much.
Kill it, you've also activated an alarm for up to half an hour saying, hey, there's a thing over here that's dying. Please come eat it.
Yes. Oh man, in which case it's like, wait, why is it doing this? What's happening? It's time for the Nat 1 encounter. What do you mean Nat 1 encounter?
I thought this was our encounter. Oh my god.
Right? It's a great way to really mess with the group overall. Oh man. Let's go ahead and just take a look through the monster manual right here. Oh, that's the DM's guide. Monster manual. And just taking a look at all these different creatures, I think if there's one I would want to touch a little bit more on. Let's see. Hold on. There's so many that are really cool to notice. Oh.
Clearly, we want to touch up on the apprentice magician.
On the apprentice magician, yes, of course. No, here's one that I love when they came into a campaign. So, Out of the Abyss features you escaping from slavery, and the closest settlement to you is a Kuatoa village. And so Kuatoa are really gross. They are degenerate fish-like humanoids that once inhabited the shores of islands in the surface world. Long ago, humans and their ilk drove the Kuatoa underground, where they dwell in madness and everlasting night. Kuatoas can no longer abide daylight. They are mad slaves. At the height of the Illithid Empire, the Mind Flayers captured Kuatoa by the thousands and forced them into bondage. The Kuatoa were simple creatures, never meant to endure the oppressive mental force of the Illithids unleashed against them. By the time the Mind Flayers abandoned them, the prolonged psychic subjugation endured by the Kuatoa had driven them mad. Their minds shattered and beyond repair, the Kuatoa adopted a religious fervor, inventing gods to protect them against threats. Most notable in these threats are the Drow. Here we go. Welcome, everyone. This is our guest, Nixian.
Hello.
Yes. Right now we're kind of just shooting the shit and taking a look over at creatures in the monster manual. And right now we're talking about the Kuatoa. So, continuing. Their minds shattered beyond repair, the Kuatoa adopted a religious fervor, inventing gods to protect them against threats. Most notable of these threats are the Drow, which have slain the Kuatoa on sight since the days when the first two races met. Here's an interesting one that I really love about them. Godmakers. Kuatoas worship gods of their own insane creation, but if enough Kuatoa believe that the god is real, the energy of their collective subconscious can cause the god to manifest as a physical entity.
Oh my god.
The form the Kuatoa god takes depends on the inspiration for its divine image, and is usually random or non-essential. One of the most revered gods of the Kuatoa is Blip Dul Pulop, the Sea Mother, who takes the form of a female human with a crayfish head and crayfish claws, and an articulated shell covering her shoulders. Blip Duplaplop was likely invented by a Kuatoa that improved a broken human statue by adding the limbs and heads of a crustacean. In such awe of his handiworks, it then named the resulting form a god. And then Kuatoa that cross paths with Aboleth often find themselves worshipping it as their god, their madness blinding them to the fact that the Aboleth is merely using them for its own nefarious ends. So
this is very Lovecraftian vibe off of this.
Yeah. Oh,
Ooh.
yeah, look at this. This is a perfect example of like what the actual what the Mother of the Sea looks like to the Kuatoa.
She pinch.
Yes, crayfish head. And one of my favorite things is that Kuatoa are like, they speak Undercommon, but when I had my first group of adventurers encounter Kuatoa, I'm like, I gotta come up with a voice for them because they seem weird and they're like, oh, I know exactly what I did. And so this is my most cursed voice I like to give a D&D creature, and it's when it goes, "Welcome, servant, we Kuatoa, feel our god."
Sounds like the gargling water.
Exactly. I'd like to imagine that there's always gargling water and just doing all kinds of things, but just look at these boys. Kuatoa are so fucking weird. They're crazy too.
Oh yeah, they look like fish people.
Mm-hmm. It's nice, and on top of this Kuatoa, you have to remember that one of the biggest things is that they're pretty much easily just fish-headed religious nutcases. That's probably the best way I would describe a Kuatoa. Who?
Perfect worshippers.
Yes.
Dagon.
Which how I think part of when you take a look at the fact that the Illithids mess with them, I think that's part of why their belief system actually manifests gods, because of the psychic energy that they don't realize that they wield from like mind flayer testings. When you have enough Kuatoa believe hard enough, a god is born, which is hilarious when you put them in retrospect. Who's better at creating gods, a Sarek or Kuatoa? Literal most powerful lich in D&D versus a bunch of crazy fish heads.
So if you give them anime and they all believe a waifu is real, the waifu becomes real.
Exactly. This is the new mission. We must find a Kuatoa village and constantly present them images of the waifus. But the Kuatoa, you have to remember, they're probably gonna distort her, so they're probably gonna put like, this waifu looks like, but what if she had fish eyes instead?
It'd probably be an improvement.
Right. Oh, there's so many cool things. Oh, here's another fun way to draw a Kuatoa with a more realistic approach. Just
Fish.
fish. Kuatoa be fish. Oh, here, Nixon. So you just came in. Throw us with by far. What's a monster in D&D that you always found really interesting?
I don't know. There's a lot to choose from, really.
Well, here, kind of just, what's the first thing that came to your mind right now?
Beholder, I guess.
Beholder? Okay. So let's take a look. Beholders are always really fun to look at, and they have a lot of lore behind them.
Favorite babies. There's so many to choose from.
Mm-hmm. One glance at a beholder is enough to assess its foul and otherworldly nature. Aggressive, hateful, and greedy, these aberrations dismiss all other creatures as lesser beings, toying with them or destroying them as they choose. A beholder's Sephiroid body levitates at all times, and its great bulging eye sits above and a wide toothy maw, while the smaller eye stalks that crown its body twist and turn to keep its foes in sight. When a beholder sleeps, it closes its central eye, but leaves its smaller eyes open and alert. Xenophobic isolationists. Enemies abound, or so every beholder believes. Beholders are convinced that other creatures resent them for their brilliance and magical power, even as they dismiss those lesser creatures as crude and disgusting. Beholders always suspect others of plotting against them, even when no other creatures are around. The disdain of a beholder has for other creatures extends to other beholders too. Each beholder believes its form to be an ideal, and that any deviation from that form is a flaw in the racial purity of its kind. Beholders vary greatly in their physical forms, making conflict between them inevitable. Some beholders are protected by overclapping chitinous plates. Some have smooth hides. Some have eye stalks that writhe like tentacles, while other stalks bear a crustacean-like joints. Even slight differences in coloration and hide can turn two beholders into lifelong enemies. The Eye Tyrant. Some beholders manage to channel their xenophobic tendencies into a terrible dystopianism. Rather than live in isolation, they aptly name Eye Tyrant enslaves those other creatures. founding and controlling vast empires. An eye tyrant sometimes carves out domains within or under a major city, commanding networks of agents that operate on their master's behalf. And alien layers. Because they refuse to share territory with others, most beholders withdraw to frigid hills, abandoned ruins, and deep caves to scheme. A beholder's lair is carved out by its disintegration eye ray, emphasizing vertical passages connecting chambers stacked on top of each other. Such an environment allows a beholder to move freely, even as it prevents intruders from easily creeping about. When intruders do break in, the height of its open ceilings allows a beholder to flow up, and Harry flows in the floor. An alien as their creator, the rooms in the beholder's lair reflect the creature's arrogance. It festoons its chambers with trophies from its battles once, including petrified adventurers standing frozen in their horrified final moments, pieces of other beholders, and magic items wrestled from powerful foes. A beholder judges its own worth by its acquisitions and will never willingly part with its treasures. So, a lot to take out of there, but when in doubt, I think my favorite thing when it comes to beholders is the fact that they really, like, they're really skeptical of everyone and anything. And it makes me laugh. It's like, imagine a beholder, like, both of them look purple to, like, the untrained eye, but the beholder's, like, oh so, like, intuitive eye can just see the slightest difference. And it's like, you're one shade darker, well, you're one shade lighter.
Die.
Exactly. You are different and thus must be dead.
They can be like they come in a lot of flavors too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I posted the Death Kiss in voice text one because it's my favorite baby.
Yeah.
But there's so many.
Check this out. Beholders also on top of going into the lore of beholder, beholders can also become death tyrants like this. We're
What
like
the heck?
Mm-hmm. How crazy. There's
It's
death.
like an undead version.
Yes, there's death tyrants. There's spectators, which are inferior versions of beholders that serve the masters, and there's also, let me see if I can find this. Going into the monsters. These are the smallest of all beholders, and they're called gazers. They're tiny. They're like baseball. They're like baseball sized.
He's so grumpy looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. On top of this, when we discuss beholders, there's no way we can avoid the elephant in the room in this case, and that is the only Xanathar. So, like it stated there, the Eye Tyrant, it's kind of like beholders who go on to create their own organizations and such. Xanathar is a perfect example of one of these beholders, where he manages an entire guild underneath Waterdeep, which is known as the Xanathar Guild. It's a criminal organization, and I think if you're taking like a thief or like a criminal background, you can actually choose to be from the Xanathar Guild as well.
Nice.
Ooh.
Yeah. On top of this, Xanathar is an interesting one because he's a beholder that trusts no one except one creature, and that is his pet goldfish Silgar that you see in front of him. He loves Silgar. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Silgar is so precious to Xanathar, but take a look at this. Disclaimer: no goldfish were harmed in the making of this book, especially not Silgar. Silgar definitely did not die because we forgot to change his water. If you see Xanathar, make sure it knows that. Be perfectly clear, Silgar was not harmed, and we had nothing to do with it. Better yet, don't bring it up and don't mention us. The Silgar that you see is probably like the 10th iteration of Silgar that Xanathar does not know at all. Because Silgar has died so many different times, but to avoid his wrath, his guild members go out and buy a new goldfish that looks close enough to Silgar and put it back where it was.
Oh my gosh.
It's literally your boss of an organization is a child who thinks everyone is out to get him and believes that he's better than everyone else and that he's perfect and a god.
What's extra hilarious is that he for sure can tell the difference in the fish, but he's like, nope, that's my fish.
That's my fish. And it's really great because like, it's one of those things where you can really get a feel for what characters are. But if we take a look through the entire book, I think, hold on, can I start? Okay, view the introduction. Throughout the entire book of Xanathar's Guide, you might have noticed these little tidbits. These are all Xanathar's notes in the books. So it's like, What's that, Silgar? No, not yet, my fishy friend. They just got here. Perhaps after we chat a bit, I find a little conversation at the beginning helps digestion. And there's him with another variant of Silgar, which is a lighter colored variant, but clearly he's like, nope, that's Silgar.
Yes.
Silgar is best fish. And so I think what's really funny is that he always has something to note about every single one of the subclasses. Let's see.
So Silgar is the main author of the books?
No, Xanathar. Xanathar's the beholder. So Xanathar says, "Rawr, I'm really angry. Funny, I don't feel any stronger. Maybe because I'm always angry. I'm always in top condition. Stands to reason." You know, his notes on the barbarians and such. Oh, so ancestors are people who did the procreation thing to make more people before they were born. Like, how many people? That's a lot of That's a lot of the procreation thing. Ew, you're disgusting.
I do want to say in the books, I really enjoy the little notes they do on classes, like Tasha's dislike of clerics and paladins.
Mm-hmm. Well, that stems from the fact that Tasha, like, she was seen as a witch, and thus there was a lot of this heresy that went around to end her. And you know, with heresy comes clerics and paladins and such. But with Xanathar just hates Xanathar just hates everyone. But there's so much that's built into this, to the point where like Xanathar doesn't have one book that's around him. He has a whole another book, because in Waterdeep Dragon Heist, he's one of the villains you can fight. And so, like, Spring Madness is, Xanathar is supposed to be the primary villain if you're in the spring. And when you go to Xanathar's lair, you can potentially take his fish and get him pissed at you.
Why would you want to do that?
Because fuck him. Man, fuck Xanathar.
I know a couple of people in the campaigns, runs who would do it just to do it.
Right. It's like, it's like you see this this fishbowl that appears to be on its own pedestal and such. Here's another like interesting silhouette of with Xanathar affecting some. I think these are the kids. Yeah. The Waterdeep Dragon Heist has so much built into it that like there's nooks and crannies all over the place. This is stemming a little bit off topic from it, but because it's like going into this. There is an entire subsection of the book, a whole chapter dedicated to the history, the law, the currency, the very like the different districts of Waterdeep, I guess like the splendors and the things that tourists have to see in this place, as well as like the different holidays and stuff that are in this entire city. It is so densely packed with lore, and there's no way anyone who plays Waterdeep Dragon Heist can encounter it all at once, let alone maybe a tenth of it.
Yeah, man.
Here.
Incarnadine.
Yes. Here's at least one of my favorite things. So inside of Waterdeep, there are all these different kinds of alleys that you can encounter. Let's see if I can find... Okay. The wards... Oh, here we go. So, there are infamous alleys within Dragon Heist. Take a look at this one, for example. Three Daggers Alley. This alley in the Dockwards suffers from a magical curse that causes three daggers to appear out of thin air and attack passerbys. The daggers swoop and fly about, making multiple attempts at murder before vanishing again. This magical effect, the result of a spell cast by a long-dead wizard, has resisted all attempts to dispel it. Some locals boast about how many times they've crossed the alley and lived to tell the tale, but in reality, the appearance of the daggers is entirely a matter of chance. Unpredictable. So take my advice and don't test Timora's favor. These are like notes more from Volo at the time, but it's like, it's kind of like, imagine the whole like you're at a high school group of kids bragging about, I went down Three Daggers Alley and I managed to get through even though all three of the daggers were totally gonna cut my head off. It's like, yeah, right. You probably didn't even see the daggers show up. Or,
Oh, bro, imagine coming across that level 1.
Right? It's like, oh man, I'm gonna take this shortcut through town and get to the other side. Death. Done. No one notices. Or even such alleys as Many Cats Alley, which is literally where all the cats where all the the stray cats in the city like live.
Missed the opportunity to call it Ulthar, but that's fun.
Right?
Waterdeep is great.
No. Yeah. And this just goes into the fact that beholders have been like beholders have been around since first edition. In fact, hold on, let me show you. So, beholders have pretty cool looks. They, the look is much more refined now. But what if let's take a look at how beholders looked in first edition. Meet.
Yes, so scary.
Right? Clearly, hey guys, this is how it works, right? Yes. Yes. Yes.
It just looks like Mike Wazowski.
Mike Wazowski, yeah. Mike Wazowski with hair. But then they get some really intense things that artists have done to them as well. This is definitely a more iconic one since it's seen on the D&D Beyond trailer. Yeah, God. And they come in all different shapes and sizes.
Whoa.
Here.
Dude, they're so cool.
So, put that in retrospect. Beholders are heavily mentioned in the Monster Manual due to the fact that they have a lot of lore and transformations behind them. They have an entire book where one has written them. And in Waterdeep Dragon Heist, as well as Out of the Abyss, you can encounter beholders that are pretty big enemies in the game overall. But that's still not where this ends. Because in Volo's Guide... Hold on. Is it here? Yes. In Volo's Guide to Monsters, you still have an entire section that dictates about beholders and how they come in these different forms and such. And it's like it goes. This is a history book about like the actual thing, how beholders are born. They're perceptive of the world, the inhuman intelligence that they have. Beholders are bad dreams come true. Even how to customize. Instead of build a bear, it's build a beholder. You can roll 2d6s to actually here's a cool way to do this. Let's go ahead and see what we can come up with right here. I'm gonna go ahead into the Gen dice bot and see if I can roll up a beholder right here. So first, 2d6s. I got a 9, so my beholder is 5 feet in diameter. So he's a little bit on the average side of things. Let's see, he is exclamation point R1d12. 4, so he is a green beholder. His skin texture, where the fuck is it? Is a 5. So he is plated skin.
Ooh.
His eye color be red. The shape of his iris is a circle, so pretty average. But take a look at all the different things that you can counter for this. And with a 6, his eye size is normal. So it's like there's a roll once for the central eye and once for all the smaller eyes. Oh, okay. So you then have to do like, oh man, hold on.
So he's got a normal size central eye. What about the smaller eyes?
Let's see. So once for all the smaller eyes. So with a 7, he also has pretty normal eyes. So we're working with a pretty average beholder as far as like look goes. And then it's like even his eye stalks have different textures. So then from here we go like 1d6. His eye stalks are rigid like an earthworm. Are ridged like earthworms. The eye stalk shape is thick and short.
Okay.
Short stack eye stalks. Beholder mouth shape and size is normal. Teeth shape would be the last one, and this is thick and pointed, so very much like what Mike Wazowski has, where they're like, not sharp.
It's just Mike Wazowski with the red eye. Ooh.
Right, and then take a look at this. If you rolled a 10, you get double row. You get double row ones. So if you get double rowed with thin and needle-like, this is pretty scary to have. Like that's a very scary beholder.
Lamprey beholder.
Large and
Bro,
wide,
that's
with a large and wide mouth. It probably like rather than a beholder mouth, which goes to the which is like about halfway of the diameter of his body. It like goes all the way to the very end. So it's like a Muppet mouth, but with double rowed thin teeth.
Langoliers. That's the word I was looking for.
At that point, probably just use a bite attack and do a lot of damage.
And then on top of this, for the Dungeon Master, here's how to roleplay a beholder. So then you can even roll the beholders different stuff. So let's go ahead and do this. Why don't we go ahead and have each of you, Hive, go ahead to the Gen dice bot that is above the voice text, and do the command !R 1d8.
Okay. Oops. That is not a 1. Alright.
Alright, so with a 1, I enjoy lording my superiority over others. So, alright, we have a little bit of an egotistical beholder. Mex, go ahead and roll a d6. Alright, with another one, greed. My trophies are proof of my success. So this is an evil. This is definitely a beholder who strays more on his evil path rather than the lawful or neutral path. This would be Nixie right here. Go ahead and roll a d6 for the bond.
Alright. Just 3.
Alright. I must recover an artifact that was stolen from me. So this is a beholder who probably actually trails around and he doesn't he either has like an organization that is hunting the artifact or he himself is doing it on his own. And lastly, Skittles, roll a d6.
Oh, yeah, hold on.
Yes. And lastly, with a 6 for his flaw, I sometimes forget that others don't have access to all my knowledge. Alright, alright. And then, of course, take a look at this. A beholder picks its own name, piecing together sounds and syllables that has significance and meaning to it. But if you can't come up with a name, here's a D20 list to come up with a name for it. And so with this, let's go ahead and see. Our beholder's name is Velxer. Oh, and look at this. Battle tactics. Look at this beautiful image for the beholder and its gazers. That is a pretty terrifying thing. Stay out of range and sight. So this is like, this entire book is just history into the beholder, how the beholders fight, how beholders come in different shapes and sizes, and so you can multiply all of this by the different ways. So let's see this, because once again, beholders are, even if they're just the slightest bit color off, that's something we can work with. So already, so 2d6 means that we have 12 different. Sorry, actually no, we have 6 different ways. Sorry, 5 different ways a beholder can be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times 8. So already we have that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 7. Then from here, the eye color times 10. Oh. Times 10. Okay. The iris shape, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's 12 more times. The eye size, which is 5. The eye texture, which is 3. Here we go, here we go. The eye stalk shape, which is 4. The mouth size is 3. And lastly, the teeth shape is 5. There are with this table alone, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 30,240,000 different ways you can make a beholder, just from this table alone. And that's not including the fact that, like, let's say I did say it was yellow, but I wanted it to be more of like a darker yellow. So that just amplifies the amount of ways beholders can vary from each other so much.
They are very sensitive to shades of color.
Mm-hmm. On top of this, here are like the outside of combat. So beholders eye stalks, typically it's really hard for a lot of DMs to take a look into how the eye stalks are actually utilized out of combat. So right here, the anti-magic cone. The magic nullifying cone of beholder's central eye has a number of possibilities used out of combat, but if not needed, the beholder can turn it off by simply closing the eye, since it can always look through the others. The negative energy cone. Normally usable only by a death tyrant, the negative energy prevents survivors of a battle from healing and animates any dead or dying creatures as zombies under the beholder's control. Because there's no limit to the number of zombies a death tyrant can animate and control, it can pack its layers so full of undead that there's little space for anyone to walk, creating a shambling barrier of cadaverous resistance against any invasion. So, put that in respect. So whereas the innate beholder is about anti-magic coming out of its main eye, the death tyrant, you can't heal while you're in its 150-foot long cone, and anyone who dies just immediately becomes a zombie under its control.
Oh man.
That sounds so fun.
Right? And then, of course, now we actually head into the different rays that come from off its eye stalk. So the Charm Ray. It's common for a beholder to charm a hostile monster, lure the creature into the beholder's lair, and confine it there so it can't escape under its own power. In this way, even monsters that can't be bribed or coerced can be useful to beholder, making its lair a confusing zoo of hostile beasts. Although each of the charm effects last only an hour, repeated uses over time against the same target tend to wear down a creature's will, creating a docile servant. So it's just, come on, honey, time for your 1 hour charm ray. Yes, dear. See. The Paralyzing Ray. Outside of combat, the Paralyzing Ray is most often used to restrain a fleeing minion that doesn't want to destroy outright. Fear Ray is pretty obvious. Slowing Ray is on an uncooperative creature as a demonstration of sorts, threatening to follow it up with more severe consequences. The Death Ray and Enervation Ray. Pretty obvious, but they can also do this on more smaller creatures just because they can. Beholder can fine-tune its Death Ray or Enervation so that it can zap the smallest of targets and deal only a small amount of damage. For example, to guard against magical spying, a beholder might use its eye ray to eliminate a common vermin, such as bats, rats, spiders, and so on from its lair. Telekinetic ray. I shouldn't even have to say how this one's used out of combat. It's pretty obvious that it can just move things with its mind.
Nice.
Sleep ray is pretty good. Petrification ray can be also pretty nice. Beholder might use loosely scattered petrified creatures to create obstacles in an open chamber. And Disintegration ray. This one was stated before, but beholders use this to form their layers. And also, take a look at this. More beholder art for what they can look like.
Ooh. That's very creepy.
Mm-hmm. Beholders are so great. And on top of this, look at this. Variant abilities. So when in doubt, why not change the way some of its eye stalks work? Unless otherwise, so when a beholder's dream imagination runs wild, the result can be an offspring that has an unusual or unique set of abilities rather than the standard powers of a beholder's central eye and eye stalks. The creature can have one or more variant abilities, guaranteed to surprise any enemies who thought they knew what they were getting themselves into. This section provides several alternative spells for a beholder's eye. Each of these effects is designed to be one of the same power level as one it replaces. So if this is a replacement, the anti-magic cone. Let's see. Unless otherwise stated, the alternate ability has the same rage as the eye it's replacing, and affects only one creature per use. Saving throws the same DC. As another option, you can switch any of the damaging eye rays in the monster manual to an effect with a different damage type, such as replacing the Enervation Ray with Combustion Ray that deals fire damage instead of necrotic. So it's just anti-magic cone. Let's swap it with Mirage Arcane and Power Word Stun, that it's just emitting out of its eyeball. Banishment instead of Charm Ray.
Be more
Can power word stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's death. Imagine this. Now here's what's scary. Instead of the death ray, it's the circle of death that it creates. But
what does that do?
Circle of death is, and so this is it's gonna be a dumbed down version, but Circle of Death is a 60-foot radius sphere that does 8d6 necrotic damage to anyone in it.
Oh.
But for the death ray, it's replaced with a 10-foot radius version of it that does 4d6s to all creatures in the area. Or Feeble Mind, a very powerful spell for spellcasters, since what it does is that it makes your intelligence and charisma score 1. You can't cast spells, activate magic items, understand languages, or communicate in any intelligible way. So it's literally the Feeble Mind. It's turning you like really dumb. Disintegration Ray could be Chain Lightning or Eye Bite, and just with all these different ways that you can mutate the beholder on top of just changing the damage type. What I gave with the 30 million was just for the design of it. With the way beholders work and function, there are so many endless possibilities on top of the way it's designed.
Yes, I see franchise in a homebrew world. Build a beholder.
Mm-hmm. And then of course, beholder layers. Now, with everything I've said, beholder layers can be just as crazy as the beholders themselves because they can vary in so many different paths and ways that you can just look at them: prisons, sanctums, minion chambers, and all types of things. And typically, once again, beholder layers are built vertically, not widened by any means. And so a good example of a beholder layer is like taking a look at this map, but instead of these being stairways, you can see that where there are the like grayed out tubes that connect one chamber to the other, those can be where the beholder drops down a floor.
I see. Just vertical passageways with no stairs or anything like that.
Yeah, here's what it would look like when you're looking at it on the side view rather than a top down.
Ooh.
And it even says right here, let's see, pulling this up, a hole in the ceiling, an exit to the hole in the ceiling, floor in the hole, and a trap. So, for example, this would be the exit right here that leads out, the hole in the floor versus the hole in the ceiling, which these typically are going to be connected. And lastly, the trap would be right about, where the fuck is it? Oh, here we go.
There in the floor right there.
Yeah. And yet again,
Well,
another
traps in one place.
right.
Trap room.
Yes. Such a fun time. That was a pretty good one. That was a pretty good one to bring up, Nix.
Yeah.
Here,
I
let's
know
see.
Skittles posted one, the gelatinous cube, another classic monster
Ooh.
that I love so much.
Here, I'll take this another step further. On top of the fact that we're gonna, the gelatinous cube is one of the most iconic ones, being visually representative in Onward. Let's just go further into that, but talk about oozes. So let me go ahead and pull up the monster manual. Oozes.
Oozes are
And
great.
before we get super into this, I'm gonna be right back. My food got here.
Okay.
I am a big fan of slimes.
Me too. We never got to talk about the flump,
The what?
The flump, you never seen a flump.
Oh, I know the flumps. Did somebody post it?
No. I should have when we were talking about them.
You can ask him about it. We had one of the Monday boys, Grok. He had a wild magic table. I think was I don't know. Max, what was it that he did? Like whenever he went into
I don't recognize this Grok. He had a Gork.
yes, a Gork. My bad.
He was a wild magic barbarian, and one of his things was he can summon 3 or 4 flumps, and they would run around and blow up randomly.
Yeah.
Is that because the new subclass that
Yeah, I think they changed it. Now it's only 1 flump.
Oh darn.
You have several. You could roll
I also
several.
really like awakened plants. Specifically, I guess the shrub.
Yeah.
The most common one.
The awakened
They're
shrub.
the least dangerous thing in the world, but I just love them.
Oh man. All right.
Imagine having a sentient plant buddy.
Oh wait. So basically, what you're talking about is what's the one play? Or a musical, I guess. Rocky Horror Show.
Oh, Rocky Horror.
Oh, that thing.
No, your Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh,
You're talking
oh my
about Audrey.
god. Yes, I'm talking about
Oh.
Audrey. Han. Audrey. Was it a fly trap?
Nobody knows. It's a funky plant from outer space.
Images. Little Shop of Horrors plant. Oh yeah, here we go. Duh. And so it's like, here we go.
See?
There we go. It's an awakened plant.
I would love an Audrey.
Oh, okay. So, fucking love ramen, and I also treated myself to some takoyaki on the side with it.
Very nice.
All right, but so let's go ahead and take a look into oozes. Oozes thrive in the dark, shunning areas of bright light and extreme temperatures. They flow through the damp underground, feeding on any creature or object that can be dissolved, sinking along the ground, dripping from walls and ceilings, spreading across the edges of underground pools, and squeaking through the cracks. The first warning an adventurer receives of an ooze presence is often the searing pain of its acidic touch. Oozes are drawn to movement and warmth. Organic material nourishes them, when prey is scarce and they feed on grime, fungus, and offal. Veteran explorers know that an immaculately clean passageway is a likely sign that an ooze layers nearby. Slow death.
The freaking Roombas of dungeons. I love them so much.
Slow death. An ooze kills its prey slowly. Some varieties, such as black puddings and gelatinous cubes, engulf creatures to prevent escape. The only upside of this torturous death is that the victim comrades can come to rescue before it's too late. Since not every ooze digests every type of substance, some have coins, metal gear, bones, and other debris suspended in their quivering bodies. A slain ooze can be a rich source of treasure for its killers. Unwitting servants. Although an ooze lacks the intelligence to ally itself with other creatures, others that understand an ooze's need to feed might lure it to a location where it can be of use to them. Clever monsters keep oozes around to defend passageway or consume refuse. Likewise, an ooze can be enticed into a pit trap, where its captors feed on it often enough to prevent it from coming after them. Crafty creatures place torches and flaming braziers in strategic areas to dissuade an ooze from leaving a particular tunnel or room. And here we go. Spawn of Dweeblex. According to the Demonicon of Igwiv and other sources, oozes are scattered fragments or offsprings of the demon lord Dweeblex. Whether it is true or not, the Faceless Lord is one of the few beings that can control oozes and imbue them with a modicum of intelligence. Most of the time, oozes have no sense of tactics or self-preservation. They are direct and predictable, attacking and eating without cunning. Under the control of Dweeblex, they exhibit glimmers of sentience and malevolent intent. And, it's pretty obvious, an ooze does not require sleep. So, there's a few oozes to go across here, but let's go ahead and start with the best boy of them all, the gelatinous cube.
He's so cute.
Gelatinous cubes scour dungeon passages in silent, predictable patterns, leaving clean paths in their wake. They consume living tissue while leaving bones and other materials undissolved. A gelatinous cube is all but transparent, making it hard to spot until it attacks. A cube that is well fed can be easier to spot, since its victim's bones, coins, and other objects can be suspended inside of the creature. So, very interesting thing to note. As much as this cube is clearly like light blue in color, it is purely just so that we understand what it looks like. Gelatinous cubes are supposed to be nearly invisible. On top of this, one thing I found out, gelatinous cubes are labeled this because of the fact that the dungeons that they roam force the creature to become this this cubish shape. Gelatinous cubes can be in different types of forms, but it's purely because of the hallways that they traverse that they are shaped as such.
Ooh, perfect. Can they be flan colored?
Probably.
Oh my gosh.
Eat the forbidden flan.
No. If you tried to like eat a piece of it, wouldn't you just like melt from the inside?
Yes. Yes, you would.
Let's see.
Oh no. Unless you're immune to acid damage, and then it could be a snack.
That's probably it.
Forbidden jello.
Because it is pointed out here that where captors feed it often enough, prevent it from coming after them. Actually, maybe.
Yeah, it does acid damage, right? So if you have acid immunity, then you should be able to eat it.
It varies. You have to.
If it's just like, as advisable as eating a jellyfish?
That's
I'm
probably.
sure you could. You probably shouldn't, though.
What would a jellyfish even taste like?
It tastes like nothing, and yes, they do
I'd
that.
imagine.
I mean, turtles eat jellyfish, so.
There's also some cuisine in Vietnam that do jellyfish soup.
Let's see.
They
Also-
taste like nothing.
I'll save that one for last because it is a little bit more significant than the others. But then we have the Grey Ooze. Pretty simple. A Grey Ooze is stone turned to liquid by chaos. When it moves, it slithers like a snake, rising to strike. So unlike its larger and slower friend, the Grey Ooze is this kind of like winding slime. It definitely interacts more like the way you probably picture slimes. Like, let's say I'm trying to remember name of OG game, Dragon Quest, where there are these little things, they jump around from place to place. That's probably more along the lines of a Grey Ooze.
Cute.
Let's see. Orca Jelly. Orca jelly are yellowish blobs that can slide under doors and through narrow cracks in pursuit of creatures to devour them. They have enough.
Booger.
Yeah, they have enough
Ooh, that looks
bestial.
disgusting.
They have enough
The
bestial
ogre
cunning
jelly.
to avoid large groups of enemies. An orca jelly follows at a safe distance as it pursues its meal. His digestive enzymes dissolve in flesh quickly, but have no effects on other substances such as wood, bone, and metal. Hence why, like, you wouldn't know if you're being trailed by one, since they can slide under the doors without really damaging them. And of course, the strongest of the slimes is the black pudding, outside of Dweeblich, but I'll explain him in a bit. A black pudding resembles a heavy mound of sticky black sludge. In dim passageways, the pudding appears to be little more than a blot of shadow. Flesh, wood, metal, and bone dissolve when the pudding ebbs over them. Only stone remains behind, wiped clean.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Black puddings are scary. They are the ones that can actually, I think all. Hold on, let me see this. Okay. Only the orca jelly and the black pudding can split when they take any slashing damage. They're immune to the slashing damage in the first place, so when you attack a pudding like a pudding or a orca jelly with slashing damage, it splits up into two versions.
So,
Oh, bruh.
two. Keep hitting it. Go ahead. I dare you.
Right? And so with that, you're just increasing the action economy. So while, yes, you're creating less health creatures, you're giving it more opportunities to attack you with the same amount of damage that it does before.
Oh, that's not good.
Mm-hmm. I think they're also the fastest of all the slimes, because let's see, the gelatinous cube moves at 15 feet, the gray ooze and the orca jelly are at 10 feet, but then you have the black pudding, which is a stifling 20 feet, which, for most adventures, you're moving at a 30 foot. So really, the difficulty of creating slime encounters comes with the fact that you have to remember that slimes are underdark creatures, and their strength comes in the fact that you don't see them coming. Either that, or they're in narrow passageways that it's too late by the time you realize it's there.
Yeah. So if you find them out in the open, you can just run away from them.
Exactly. It's a really bad idea to kind of do that. However, though, there is one creature that definitely is an exception to this, and it's a creature whose stat block we have. This is Dweeblich, the essentially father/mother of all slimes.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Looks cool.
freaking Thursday boys fought him.
Yeah, Thursday boys did fight him. He's a pretty hard fight. Taking a look, let's just look at the description before I get into his actual stat block. Description: called the Faceless Lord and the oozing hunger in ancient grimoires, Dweeblich is a demon lord of slime and ooze, a noxious creature that doesn't care about the plots and schemes of others of its kind. It exists only to consume, digesting and transforming living matter into more of itself. A true horror, Dweeblich is a massive bubbling slime, swirling black and green, with glaring red eyes floating and shifting within it. It can rise up like a 20-foot hill, lashing out with dripping pseudopods to drag victims into its bulk. Those consumed by Dweeblich are obliterated. Only the truly insane worship Dweeblich and tend to its slimes and oozes. Those who offer themselves up to the demon lord and engulf it and are engulfed by it and become vaguely humanoid sentient oozes. The bodies of these former flesh and blood creatures form Dweeblich's extended physical body, while the demon lord slowly digests and savors their identities over time.
Oh.
Yeah, Dweeblich is pretty scary. Taking a look at like the different eyeballs that are actually floating around him, it reminded me of the one Skyrim, Daedric.
Oh, Hermaeus Mora?
I think so. Do you remember how to spell it? Hans.
It's very hard. Just look up Daedric, Lord of Knowledge. That's what he is.
Daedric.
Just a
Apparently your
mass of
face smells like
tentacles
food.
and eyeballs.
Daedric Princess, let's see.
Frickin' Lilda.
Here it is.
Going
Hermaeus Mora, Shrine in Oblivion.
That's how he looks in Oblivion, but in Skyrim, he looks like a writhing mass of tentacles with eyes and stuff.
Yeah, so now that we have that, let's see. Hermaeus Mora. Images. Yeah, here it is. This is what comes to my mind when I think of like a Dweeblich a little bit, because this is like a floating variant of what Dweeblich is.
Yeah.
so cool looking.
Mm-hmm. And you,
Oh, yeah, that.
I think it's the Dragonborn DLC that heavily involves him because he's like the main antagonist. Well, sorry, he's like the main supporting antagonist.
Yeah.
But here, so Dweeblix is pretty scary with 350 hit points and an AC of 18. He is so hard to kill for a slime that is a big target. It's not a matter of you not being able to hit him because you like to not hit Dweeblix is to not hit the bright side of a barn. But it's just that he's probably not taking the damage from it.
Oh yeah, because he has a ton of immunities.
Mm-hmm. Strength 24, Dexterity 10, Con 13, 23, Intelligence 20, Wisdom 20, and Charisma 16. He is like mentally stacked compared to other like adventures that would probably face him. His worst stat being Dexterity, as all other slimes are, and even then, it's just an average stat. It's not like he's terrible at it.
Yeah.
His saving throws are pretty decent. Perception is 12 with all the floating eyeballs around him. Resistance to cold, fire, and lightning, and immune to poison, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from all non-magical attacks, and he is immune to pretty much every condition available. I don't see... Unconscious is there, so yeah. He has true sight, so you can't be invisible against him, nor can you use illusions against him. He has a passive perception of 22, and he can speak all languages and has a 120-foot range of telepathy.
Every time you mention true sight, I keep thinking of Croak trying to go invisible.
Right.
Oh yeah. That was fun last session.
And then look at this. Foul, because he is just nasty. Any creature other than an ooze that starts to turn within 10 feet of Dweeblix has to make a con save or be poisoned until the start of the creature's next turn. So poison, you know. Yeah. Innate spellcasting. He can at will cast Acid Splash and detect magic. Acid Splash being 4d6s of damage up to a range of 60 feet, which is, you know, pretty scary to see a slime that has range capabilities. And 3 times a day for each of these, he can cast a Blight 3 times a day, Contagion 3 times a day, and Gaseous Form, which, while in this form, the target's only method of moving is a flying speed of 10 feet, and the target can enter and occupy the same space as another creature. So just like, we did it! We made it through the crack in the wall by shrinking farther. There's no he can catch up to. The gas seeps in.
Oh no.
Let's see. 3 legendary resistances, magical resistance. All his attacks are considered magical, and he regens 20 hit points at the start of each of his turns. Only fire or radiant damage can really deal with that, but he's resistant to fire as well.
It doesn't say he's immune to necrotic. Weird.
Oh, he's not.
Okay, that's good.
It's mainly like the poison. I'm surprised acid isn't on this though. That's what really surprises me.
Oh yeah. Why is it immune to acid?
Spider Climb is here, and now let's take a look at this. His attacks: Acid Lash. He can make 3 Acid Lash attacks, each with a plus 14, 4d6 plus 7 acid damage, and any creature killed by this attack is drawn into his body, and the corpse is obliterated after 1 whole minute.
Oh, dude.
Or Eject Slime. It's a breath type ability that has a recharge of 5 to 6, and he spews out corrosive slime, targeting 1 creature you can see within 60 feet. You have to make a dex save, and if you fail, 10d10s acid damage, and unless the target avoids taking any of this damage, any metal armor worn by the target takes a permanent -1 penalty. Any metal weapon it's carrying or wearing takes a permanent -1 penalty to damage rolls. The penalty worsens each time, and the target is subjugated to this effect. If the penalty is dropped to a -5, the object is destroyed.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. And on top
really
of this,
weird distance away from it.
and notice this, it doesn't specify non-magical. So Dweeblix can affect all metal. Even your like precious +3 plate armor and your +3 weapons.
Oh.
And of course, he wouldn't be a legendary creature without his legendary actions. He can do his Acid Splash. He can cast Acid Splash. He can make an Acid Lash. And lastly, Corrupting Touch. 10-foot range, 14 to hit, 4d6, poison damage instead. And the target is slimed. Until they use an action to scrape off the slime, they are just automatically poisoned, and any creature within 10 feet of them is considered poisoned as well.
Oh, so you gotta get your poison immunity up to just to fight this creature.
And lastly, the lair. So lair actions is pretty important because lairs are all about like the domains that they fight, especially if you want to make this like a total boss fight. Lair actions always work on initiatives of 20. And right here, Dweeblich slimes an area of the ground and can see within its lair. The area can be up to 10 feet on a side. The slime lasts for an hour or until burned away. When the slime appears, a creature in the area must make a strength save or become restrained. When a creature in the area enters the first time or its turn there, you have to make the save again. A restrained creature is stuck as long as it remains in the slimy area or it breaks free. You can attempt to pull away the creature with another strength check. If the slime is set on fire, it burns away after 1 round, and any creature that starts to turn in the burning slime takes 4d10 fire damage. That's all from one legendary action. From one lair action. Another one is the slime an area on the ground up to 10 feet. The slime lasts for an hour, dexterity save, or fall prone and slide 10 feet in a random direction determined by a d8 roll. If the slime is set on fire, same thing. So it's sticky slime versus slippery slime. And the final one, it's a slime that actually doesn't have a stat block because it's its own thing, green slime. A patch of green slime covers a 5-foot square. Make a dex save, otherwise the slime can't be avoided as it drops. And it's 2d10 acid damage. So right here, a green slime appears on a spot on the ceiling that Dweeblich chooses within the layer, and it disintegrates after an hour. So what this is doing very much is, here's a spot I'm putting on the ceiling. If you move to this spot, the green slime is going to fall on you.
Oh.
Better dodge it.
He has regional effects just for him being in the area. He affects areas up to a mile, 6 miles, and then another effect that's for a mile around him. And he also has his own madness table that if he's striking madness on you, which he's a demon lord, you have to roll a d100 for his unique madness effects.
Oh, bro, one of the regional effects, he can just make any body of water into acid. So if you're surrounded by a lake, you're screwed. Oh, dude.
That is terrifying. Jesus.
Oh, yeah. Dweeblich has always been one of my favorite demon lords. And it's a really cool topic when we bring up slimes and oozes, because most people hear oozes, and it's this misconception because of the way, like, certain video games have painted them,
Oh, yeah, like they're super weak, huh? Now a Dragon Quest with a metal slime. Ooh.
Right. Here. What's another creature you guys want to go off on?
What was it?
I'm seeing. Here's one that I don't know a lot about, so it'd be nice to get a little bit more context on this about the Chol. It's something from the basic rules.
Oh yeah.
So, they're aberrations. So going back to the way Mind Flayers, Beholders, and even the Chokers are, right? Yeah, I think. Survivors of an ancient aboleth empire. Chols are crustaceans the aboleths modified and endowed with sentience. They follow the integrated directives of their creators, as they have done since the dawn of time. So these are, wow, so they're like ancient warriors.
They're really old.
Crab people. Primeval relics. In the primeval ages, the aboleths ruled a vast empire that spanned the oceans of the world. In those days, the aboleths used mighty magic and bent the minds of nascent creatures of the mortal realm. However, they were bound to the water and could not enforce their will beyond it without servants. Therefore, they created Chols. Perfectly obedient, the Chols collected sentient creatures and magic of the aboleth's command. Chols were designed to endure the ages of the world, growing in size and strength as the eons passed. When the aboleth's empire crumbled with the rise of the gods, the Chols were cast adrift. However, these creatures continue to do what they did for the aboleths, slowly collecting humanoids, gathering treasure, amassing magic, and consolidating power. Tireless guardians. Chols still guard the ruins of an ancient aboleth empire. They linger in silent observations of eon-old commands. Rumors and ancient maps sometimes lure treasure seekers to these ruins, but the reward for their boldness is death. Whatever riches that the explorers bring with them adds to the hoard, guarded by the Chols. Chols can sense magic at a distance. This sense, coupled with an innate drive that leads them to slay explorers, take their gear, and bury it in secret locales aboleths dictated eons ago. And lastly, waiting servants. Although the Aboleth Empire fell long ago, the psychic bonds between them and their crafted servants remain intact. Trolls that come into contact with Aboleths immediately assume their old roles. Such trolls redirected their compulsions to the servants of Aboleth's sinister purposes. So it's just, you could totally find these things just wandering around in the underwater areas, but then all of a sudden you encounter like a group of them and say, wait a minute, this is weird. They don't usually work together unless, oh fuck, Aboleth.
Ooh.
Which, hold on, let me see this. What do I think? Yeah. For those wondering what an Aboleth is, blah.
Yeah, those.
Oh, dude, what
Pretty
the heck? That looks weird.
What was that, Hive?
Cool.
I like Aboleths a lot.
Yes. Aboleths are indeed very cool. There's a bit of lore behind them, but the issue is that I feel like whenever I see Aboleths, I don't see enough for them. Could it be that Aboleths are older than gods, that before the divines? So it's like, for creatures that are like are like essentially primeval, because they come from like such an ancient, long forgotten area. There's not too much. Let me see if there's actually more in any of the books, like Volo's Guide to Monsters. Nothing here. There's more in Beholders, because Beholders obviously get the love. Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, The Great War, Elves, Dwarves and Dragar, Gith, Halflings, nope.
Yeah.
It sucks, because Aboleths really do have a lot going for them. They're, whenever you usually encounter one, it's very like, it's typically like like Attack of the Alien Empire, Attack of the Alien Overlords type of things, because that's what they're all about. But here's one that's pretty cool on a similar topic, in the way the slimes and oozes were, and that are the Gnoll. Do any of you already know what the Gnolls are? I'm
No.
assuming.
They're
Okay.
like the hyena people, like race, aren't they?
Yes. So, Gnolls are humanoids. So check this out. Gnolls are feral hyena-headed humanoids that attack without warning, slaughtering their victims and devouring their flesh. Gnolls are feral humanoids that attack settlements along the frontiers in borderlands of civilization without warning, slaughtering their victims and devouring their flesh. Demonic origin. The origin of the Gnolls traces back to a time when the demon lord Yonogu found his way to the material plane and ran amok. Packs of ordinary hyenas followed in his wake, scavenging the demon lord's kills. Those hyenas were transformed into the very first Gnolls, parading after Yonogu until he was banished back to the abyss. The Gnolls then scattered across the face of the world, a dire reminder of demonic power. Gnolls are very fun to run with, as a side note, because they're just one challenge rating stronger than a goblin. But I'd rather fight a pack of goblins over a pack of Gnolls, just because Gnolls are pretty relentless. On top of this, take a look at this Rampage. When a Gnoll reduces a creature to 0 hit points with a melee attack in its turn, they can immediately use a bonus action to bite and move up to half their speed on another creature. Let's see, Nomadic Destroyers. Gnolls are dangerous because they strike at random. They emerge from the wilderness, plunder and slaughter, and then move elsewhere. They attack like plague of locusts, pillaging settlements and leaving little behind, but raising buildings, gnawed corpses, and befouled land. Gnolls choose easy targets for their raids. Armored warriors holed up in a fortified castle will survive a rampaging Gnoll horde unscathed, even as the towns, villages, and farms that surround the capital are ablaze. Their people slaughtered and devoured. Gnolls rarely build permanent structures or craft anything of lasting value. They don't make weapons or armor, but scavenge such items from the corpses of their fallen victims, stringing ears, teeth, scalps, and other trophies from their foes onto their patchwork armor. And finally, thirst for blood. No goodness or compassion resides in the heart of a Gnoll. Like a demon, it lacks anything resembling a conscience and can't be taught or coerced to putting aside its destructive tendencies. The Gnoll's frenzied bloodlust makes them an enemy to all, and when they lack a common foe, they fight amongst themselves. Even the most savage orcs avoid allying with the Gnolls. And so, taking a look at this, Gnolls come in all different types of shapes and colors. Here's an interesting thing that Icewind Dale introduced. Gnoll vampires.
Wow. Those things are scary. Jesus.
Mm-hmm. As is. Gnolls are pretty intense, but when you realize that gnolls can become vampires, increasing that difficulty even higher, you take a half challenge rating creature and turn it into a challenge rating 8 creature. Now imagine a pack of these.
Yeah, that is difficult to deal with.
I think the only other way to like topple any of this is to talk about, in the same way we did with Dweeblix, it's all about Yonogu here. With his yee ass haircut.
Yeah.
And here is Yonogu.
Oh man,
Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
his jaw's super wide, bro. It's scary.
Ugly.
Right? He's a demon lord like
I'm
Dweeblix.
so happy.
So check this out.
Yeah,
Note.
he's definitely smiling.
Description. The Beast of Butchery appears as a great battle-scarred gnoll, towering 14 feet tall. Yonogu is the Gnoll Lord, and his creations are made in his twisted image. When the Demon Lord hunted across the material planes, packs of hyena fall in his wake. Those that ate of the great Yonogu's kills became gnolls, emulating their master's way. Few others worship the Beast of Butchery, but those who tend to take on a gnoll-like aspect, hunch over and filing their teeth down to points. Yonogu wants nothing more than slaughter and senseless destruction. The gnolls are his instruments as he drives them to even greater atrocities in his name. Yonogu takes pleasure in causing fear before death, and he sows sorrow and despair through destroying beloved things. He doesn't parley. To meet with him is to do battle with him, unless he becomes bored. The Beast of Butchery has a long rivalry with Baphomet, the Horned King. Baphomet, the Horned King, and the two Demon Lords and their followers attack each other on sight. Which, in case you're wondering, Baphomet is Minotaurs. The Gnoll Lord is covered in matted fur and taut, leathery hide. His face, like a grinning predator's skull, patchwork armor made of discarded shields and breastplates, is lashed to his body with heavy chains decorated by flayed skins of his foes. He wields a triple-headed flail called the Butcher, which he can summon into his hand at will, although he is likely to tear apart his prey with his bare hands before ripping out its throat with his teeth. What a good boy. Look at the shields that are just chaining all over him. This is my armor. But what's interesting is that his flail attack, when he attacks, he makes 3 flail attacks, and each one can create additional effect, either of his choice or at random. So innately, the flail does 1d12 plus 9 bludgeoning damage with a plus 16 to hit. But you can also pick from one of these 3 effects for any of them. You can either make the attack deal an additional 2d12s of damage, making it do 3d12s plus 9. You can have them make a con save or be paralyzed until the start of Yonogu's next turn. Or you can have them make a wisdom save or be affected by the confusion spell until the start of Yonogu's turn. Yeah. Some pretty interesting stuff going on with him. Unlike Dweeblix, he doesn't have as much condition immunities, but he makes up for that with the fact that he can teleport behind you, nothing personal kid, dispel magic, instill fear, invisibility. He can summon an 8th level spiritual weapon and detect magic at will.
I see.
Yeah, I like Yonogu a lot, and it's also very nice that his partner, his rival in crime, is Baphomet, the Horned King. So, like, imagine armies of Minotaurs fighting an even bigger army of gnolls as they just go at it for like ceaseless rampaging and destruction.
Bay on the Minotaurs.
Yes, Minotaurs. But here, on a much lighter note, let's take a look at what Hive presented us.
Flump.
Flump. Oh man. Hi, tell us a little bit why you like this monster, if you will.
It's just cute, you know?
It's cute.
It looks very, it looks like it just doesn't know what's going on at all. It's just floating around.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Let's take a look at this. The mysterious flump drifts through the Underdark, propelled through the air by its jets, whose sound gives them their name. So it goes flump, flump, flump. A flump glows faintly, reflecting its moods and color. Soft pink means it's amused. Deep blue is sadness. Green expresses curiosity, and crimson is anger. They are intelligent and wise. Flumps communicate telepathically. Though they resemble jellyfish, Flumps are sentient beings of great intelligence and wisdom, possessing advanced knowledge of religion, philosophy, mathematics, and countless other subjects. Flumps are sensitive to the emotional state of nearby creatures. If a creature's thoughts suggest goodness, a Flump seeks that creature out. When facing creatures that extrude evil, a Flump flees.
Oh, so Flumps are just engineers from Halo. Exact same concept. Pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Interesting.
Give it a plasma grenade and watch
Honestly,
it go.
this makes it worse because wasn't Grok just summoning them and then having them blow up?
Yeah.
Oh,
And they're like super smart, super nice creatures, and he's like suicide bombers.
just like how the engineers are used in Halo.
Yep. So, psionic siphons. Flumps feed by siphoning mental energy from psionic creatures. And they can be found lurking near communities of mind flayers, aboleths, Githyanki, and Githzrai. As passive parasites, they take only the mental energy they need, and most creatures feel no loss or discomfort from such a feeding. Consuming psionic energy reveals the thoughts and emotions of the creatures on which the Flumps feed. Since so many of those creatures are evil, Flumps are often subjugated to the thoughts, emotions, and hungers that sicken their pure nature. When Flumps encounter good-hearted adventurers, they eagerly share the dark secrets they have learned in hopes of casting down the evil sources of energy, even if doing so means they must seek out new sources of nourishment.
These are good boys.
Indeed.
Oh.
And Flump society. Flumps live in complex and organized groups called cloisters, within which each Flump has a place and purpose. Their harmonious groupings have no need for leaders since all Flumps contribute in their own way. They even have a stench spray, so it's like, ew, go away. Stinky. I think there's another thing about Flumps I love a lot. Images. There's a specific image I love for them.
What the heck is that?
It's a Flump.
Looks like a floating plate, paper plate. It's so weird.
A floating flesh plate.
Yeah.
This would be good for flying spaghetti monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, this one just looks like Toad.
Give me Keith. That's what they're saying. Give me Keith.
Mhm.
Kiss my lips. Oh man. No. This is definitely really I love D&D. Part of what it is definitely like as a DM, it's when you get to throw new creatures at your player's way and they get to like be curious about them. That's part of what today was all about. But I think I'm going to go ahead and say that this is a good place to kind of just give it a call here. Thank you everyone so much for tuning on in. It's been a pleasure having you all join us today. And thank you guys for showing up and helping give your guys the input on your favorite creatures that you love in D&D.
Yeah, no problem.
Of course.
Yes. With that, we'll catch you all later. Bye, stream.
Goodbye, y'all.